Broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios at Santander Stadium. This is York's local sports show. Talking local sports on York's local sports station. Welcome to Game Day with GameTimePA on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
GameTimePA Sports Radio 1350, another edition of our local high school sports radio show. I'm Brandon Stoneberg with the York Daily Record. I got Zach Miller here from the Evening Sun down in our Hanover office, here to talk 2 hours about some local high school sports. It's a very nice day outside, but if you're inside or you're in the car, check us out. We're 7 weeks into football season now, about to go into week 8. We have some brief news I want to tell you guys first before we jump into things. 2 stories popped up today. Susquehannock High School, their 9th grade team was allegedly involved in some hazing. Police and school officials are investigating that situation. Talked to the superintendents today, and they weren't willing to discuss or disclose exactly what happened in the hazing situation, but they said some 8th and 9th grade students were involved. It happened in a locker room October 16th. And as soon as they found out, they let the police know, and they started their own investigation. So they're working on that. Elsewhere down in the southern part of the county, Kennerdale, they're going with a 2-coach system the rest of the season. After October 1st, Patrick Wider is no longer with the team. He went 2-14 in 16 games as Kennerdale's head coach. They weren't willing to say whether he stepped down himself or whether he was dismissed, but he is no longer there, and they're going with 2 assistant coach kind of running the show together now in the meantime. So we'll see how that comes up in the offseason. Maybe that's another coaching opening. I believe New Oxford is one that we might have as well, because they said that this year is a kind of interim tag for Jason Warner.
Yeah, we'll see if they hold on to Warner or not, but as far as I know, the interim tag hasn't been removed from his title yet.
So that could be 2 openings after 8 or 9, I think we ended up with at some point in the offseason last year. Anyway, so Week 7 football is in the books. Zach, we're going to jump into some game balls now. Who stood out to you Week 7 football, or any sport really?
I like to kind of go other sports with the game balls because we do a lot of football on this show. We don't talk about the other sports much, but I got a few this week. Starting with Gabby Emig, a volleyball player for Bermudian Springs. She broke the school's career assist record and the school's career aces record in the same game last week, or the same match last week against York Tech. So that was a very cool accomplishment for her. Very cool to get it done in one day. And now her teammate Whitcomb broke the kills record, right? She broke the kills record and the blocks record, but not in the same game. So Emma kind of topped her on that by doing 2 in one game.
But this roster basically has 4 of the 5 volleyball stats covered. Like, they just need someone to break the Diggs record.
Oh yeah,
and
pretty much. Yeah, no, it's been those 2 girls. They really carry the team. They're some good players, and Bermudian's really going to miss them next season.
Who else you got?
I got 2 from cross country as well. It's another sport we don't talk a lot about on this show, but the YAIAA cross country championships took place on Tuesday. Dan Filler from Gettysburg won the boys race, and Maddie Ferner won the girls race. She's from Kennerdale. So those are my 3 game balls for this week.
Yeah, Ferner and Maddie McLean from Eastern kind of went back and forth all season as arguably the best girls cross country in the area. And Filler had a great year last year as well for Gettysburg. I think he kind of surprised some people because out here at least you don't always see the Gettysburg races, but at playoff time he stepped up big last year, and he always seems to step up at this time of year.
Yeah, he took charge right from the get-go in that race, and he was ahead the whole time. Ferner, meanwhile, you mentioned Maddie McLean. The 2 Maddies ran alongside each other pretty much for 3 miles, and then Maddie Ferner was the one who was able to break away a little bit at the end.
Yeah, they might be tired of seeing each other at some point because they're in the same division. They race in the same race almost every time.
Yeah, I wrote about it on Tuesday. They've actually become pretty good friends, from seeing each other all these times and competing with each other. And they want to get together after the season, train with each other because they're both on kind of the same level, and they're able to push each other for that reason. So it's cool that a little friendship has come out of that competition.
And McLean's only a sophomore.
Yeah, she is.
But yeah, I guess when you're running next to the same person for 3 miles, you might have some time to chit chat. I'm going to a few football. Actually, I'll stay non-football for first. I'm going Gus Minkin, Central golfer. He has now won in a span of 3 weeks. He picked up 3 gold medals. The York Adams individual tournament he won, the district tournament he won, and then he just won the regional tournament. So he's carried the team. Coach said that he hasn't. Coach Ruby said that he hasn't seen Minkin have really a bad round all season, and Minkin said he's just kind of hitting his groove right now. He's not hitting any bad shots. He just keeps plugging along.
Maybe States is next.
He's definitely going to States. We'll see how he does there. But in districts, he was behind by a shot going into the 17th and eagled and then won. In regionals, he was ahead by a shot. The other kid eagled and sent it to a playoff, and then Gus ended up winning in the playoffs. But Central is sending 3 golfers to states. Eastern York sending 2. I believe that's it for the York Adams. But Gus making 3 gold medals in 3 weeks, so good for him. Kendrick Boyd Gillespie, Red Lion wide receiver. He did the same thing last year. He had a solid year the whole year, then one huge game. Last week he had 10 catches, 202 yards, and 5 touchdowns. It's a pretty big stat line. And then going down the Hanover area, Jordan Laufman took over as the number 1 rusher in the league with 34 carries, 190 yards, and 2 touchdowns last week. He's now number 1 ahead of everyone. So
wow.
Hanover has Kyle Kraut second in passing. They have Laufman first in rushing, and then Rashawn Williams is up there for receiving as well.
Yeah, you can tell why they're still undefeated.
Yeah. So Boyd Gillespie and Laufman gets that one. Minkin for the non-football one. Our athletes of the week. You guys voted online. That's what you came up with. Our girls athlete of the week, Lydia Finano. I know I messed that one up. Dallastown cross country. She finished first in last week's Division I race, 20 minutes and 56 seconds. On the boys' side, we messed this name up the first time. We gave his stats to Darren Gordon, but Spring Grove's Gavin Black, 4 goals, 4 assists, and a win versus Northeastern. Sorry for messing that up online, guys. Gavin had their stats, not Darren. We tried to give those goals to Darren. And then the football athlete of the week. This week we had a lot of good choices. We had Jonas Atkinson from York Suburban with a game-winning field goal. We had Josiah Smallwood, I believe, or Demarius Wiggins from York County Tech. He had a big game.
He did.
We had some other big ones. But Danny Brewer, Kennerdale quarterback, came off the bench. The Rams kind of run a 2 QB system. Dalton Stike does a half. Danny Brewer does a half. Brewer came off the bench, threw for 147 yards, ran for 81, and sparked. They were down 14-0 at the time. They came back and won 21-14 in overtime. So Kennerdale has eclipsed last year's win total. I think they got 2 or 3 now wins, I believe. So good for the Rams. There's a couple teams actually that have eclipsed last year's total. Susky, Kennerdale, York Tech, Hanover. All those guys. New Oxford, obviously, they only had
that's right
1, but that was more than last year.
Yep.
So when we come back, though, we're going to go into segment 2. We're going to talk our top games from Week 7 coming up. Last week's game. We're going to recap Week 7. That's what we're going to do, and then we're going to preview Week 8. Stick with us. We'll see you after the break.
Payne doesn't take Sunday off. Neither do we. We're open weekdays 8 to 8 and weekends 9 to 6. Just walk into WellSpan Urgent Orthopedics. 2319 South George Street in York, across from the Apple Hill Health Campus. Visit wellspan.org/urgent orthopedics today.
It's going to be another epic year in high school football, and Sports Radio 1350 is ready for kickoff. Tune in every Friday night this fall for the high school football game of the week, presented by WellSpan Sports Medicine. Plus, go to WOYK1350.com for a full breakdown of the teams and the players of the 2015 York Adams League. The high school football game of the week, presented by WellSpan Sports Medicine. Catch the action every Friday night on Sports Radio 1350, online at WOYK1350.com, or download the WOYK mobile app.
Waking up with the Zabe. The Steve Zabin Show.
Dateline more football. Let's go to Minnesota. Headline: Teddy Bridgewater says Madden helps him learn Vikings playbook. What?
Good God!
You mean John Madden?
The Steve Zabin Show on Yahoo Sports Radio.
Or the video game Madden? Oh, the video game Madden.
Here's the old ball coach. He has that list of plays. We're talking about how many plays he has in the list and what the list. He said, it's just an old list of ball plays.
Yeah. Bridgewater says he has imported the entire Vikings playbook into the video game Madden and will be using it to get, quote, virtual reps.
That sounds like an Onion story. It can't be real.
But maybe the game is that accurate.
Really? The Steve Zabin Show.
Mornings at 6 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Sunday on Compass Media Network's coverage of the NFL. The Cowboys head to Jersey for a high-stakes NFC East clash with the Giants. Join Kevin Ray and Danny White for all the action as Dallas looks to stop their losing skid by completing a season sweep of Eli Manning and the G-Men. Cowboys-Giants from MetLife Stadium. If it's the NFL, it's right here.
Your home for the NFL. Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Hi, I'm Dover football coach Wayne Snellbaker. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK, first in York, first in sports.
back to Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350. We handed out our game balls last segment. This segment, we're going to recap some stuff that we saw in Week 7 football. We'll jump in. Dallastown made a statement, 29-21 win over Southwestern. Zach, you were there. What were your thoughts on the game? Is Dallastown, I guess, now the king of the hill in Division 1?
Yeah, I think Dallastown is definitely the team to beat in this league, and there's a reason they're undefeated, and that's we've talked about their defense a lot and how good that defense is. And, I mean, they kept a very good Southwestern offense in check for pretty much the whole game. Southwestern, put a couple on the board in the second half, but Dallastown did a really good job on the Mustangs, and the offense, Cade Gold just makes plays, and all he has to do really is make a few plays, and with that defense, they're able to win a lot of games, and they have. They're 7-0 now in first place, sole possession of first place now in Division 1.
Yeah, now they control their own destiny, and Dallastown doesn't do anything flashy at all this season. I mean, they don't have really anyone at the top of any statistical category. Like, there's no big key player or no go-to guy. I mean, their defense is kind of bend but don't break. Like, their defense hasn't given up the fewest yards, but they've given up the fewest points, and they have the best turnover ratio.
Right, yeah, they find a way to make plays and keep teams out of the end zone, which in high school football is big because not too many teams are going to kick field goals from much of a distance. And, yeah, I mean, they really do just kind of spread the ball around. They use a few different running backs. Gold's able to go to a few different receivers, and he's able to tuck it and run it himself, and those are where the biggest plays come up.
Yeah, the lefty's done well. The only thing that's concerning some people about Dallastown is when it comes time for the district playoffs, a good defense, maybe a good mid-pen or good LL defense in Quad A is going to be able to focus in on Gold and shut him down. So who else really can step up on that offense? But
that's a concern. If you get into a game where it's defense against defense, is that offense going to be able to make enough plays? And I think, against the rest of the York Adams League, that's not going to be an issue. I think they're definitely in the driver's seat and have a good chance to go undefeated. But you're right. When you get into playoff time against some other teams that are kind of built the same way, are they going to be able to score enough points?
Well, they're definitely, like you said, they're in the driver's seat. They control their own destiny now. Win out for Dallastown, and the division is yours, which is especially big. We thought they'd be good, but maybe not this good. I mean, they lost a lot on their line. Their line was huge last year. They lost most of those guys. And they lost our player of the year, Addison Quinones, who ran for, I think, 12 or 1,300 yards and had almost 100 tackles. So we thought that they'd kind of take a step back, but they've showed. I mean, they've beaten everyone. They beat Northeastern, they beat Dallas, or they beat Southwestern.
Yeah, they'll get Red Line in the last week of the season, but it's New Oxford this week. New Oxford's obviously struggling,
and Central.
Then Central, right, another team that's kind of struggling. So they should definitely be 9-0 going into the Red Line game.
And Red Line, that's going to be a good one. It's a huge rivalry, and anytime those two teams play, it's like the old cliche: you throw the records out. And Red Line would love to play spoiler if that one. I mean, Red Line's not going to have a chance at the division. They would love to be able to make sure Dallastown doesn't either.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Red Line's still a dangerous team. They've had some tough breaks not go their way, but they're definitely capable.
Yeah, I mean they're a play here or there from being undefeated as well.
Yeah. So that Week 10 matchup could be huge. So Southwestern and Northeastern aren't out of it yet at one loss.
Right. Yeah, they're hanging around. And actually, Spring Grove only has a loss too. The Spring Grove plays Northeastern this week. You never know. So, yeah, Dallastown doesn't have a huge lead, but it has the lead now, and just by winning out, it takes care of the division.
Yeah, we'll talk more about Spring Grove later. They've got a solid record. I mean, their best win on their resume right now is against a 2-win Central team.
Yeah, they're just hanging around.
The thing that grinded my gears about Spring Grove this week was giving their coach an ice bath after a 24-14 win against a 2-4 team. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the first time they beat a team that actually won a game this year. Maybe that's why.
I don't know. I'm not sure it deserved. And like when you see those college teams rush the field after a game, you're like, why did you guys storm the field? That one was like, why did you guys give him an ice bath?
They did exceed last year's win total. We didn't mention them in the beginning. They're another team that's gone over. So yeah. I don't know. I can't really justify the ice bath, but I'm throwing out some reasons, possible reasons.
In Division 2, I was at West York this week, and that was probably the best game I've seen maybe all year. I don't have a good memory, so I can't really remember any of the rest of them, but that was a good one.
First walk-off field goal you've seen?
Yeah, I guess technically it wasn't a walk-off. There was 1 second left on the clock when West York actually almost pulled off a Music City Miracle.
Really?
And ended up basically not making a story because so much other stuff happened. But they had the return go to the 40, threw it across the field, and the kid had some room to run, but he ended up getting tackled at like the York Suburban.
That would have been something.
Yeah, that would have been crazy. I would have been upset because I'd already put my camera away thinking that this one was over. But anyway, so West York comes out. They're at home. It's homecoming. Ryan Narber, their best running back, wins homecoming king, and then storms out, has 100-something yards and a touchdown. They were running all over York Suburban early on. If York Suburban's offense had a slow start, they did three straight 3 and outs, a turnover, and they didn't really get anything going.
Yeah, I don't think, did York Suburban ever lead in the game until 1 second left?
Nope, they were trailing for 47 minutes and 59 seconds of that game, and then they won. And they stormed West York's field on West York's homecoming.
Ouch.
Yeah, rivals. West York was pretty upset on Twitter after that. Twitter got pretty entertaining the rest of the night. But so anyway, West York goes up 2 scores. They're up 15-0 because of 2-point conversion. If they take that lead into the halftime, it's probably a different game. And Andy Lausch, the coach for Suburban, says that if they hold, Suburban gets the ball back with 2 minutes left in the first half. If they don't score there and they go into the locker room down 15-0, maybe that game doesn't go their way. But Merkel put together a 2-minute drive. Quarterback Thomas Merkel put together a 2-minute drive, found Colin Mailman, who actually set it up with a 50-yard kick return. Found Mailman wide open in the back of the end zone. If there's one receiver in this league you have to cover, it's probably Colin Mailman. But he snuck behind the West York defense. They scored before the half. They forced a turnover on the first possession of the second half. They came back out and scored again. They were down by 1. West York scored. Really the turning point, though, West York had the ball with 3 minutes to go. And they just needed to get a first down, basically. And York Suburban's run defense came up big, made a stop. So West York had to punt the ball back with about 2 minutes to go. Merkel and company went, I think it was 78 yards in 2.5 minutes or whatever it was. Drove all the way down the field. They converted a couple of third downs, a fourth down or two, went all the way down the field and set up the field goal. Jonas Atkinson ran on. He said he didn't really think about it. He was just trying to put good contact on the ball, knocked it right through the uprights. He went crazy. The crowd stormed the field. There was still 1 second left, so they got a penalty, which didn't help them in the kickoff.
Right.
But it was a crazy ending. I mean, the West York side was silent. They were silent most of the second half.
Yeah, West York's kind of had some tough breaks this season. Has been on the losing end of a few close games, and just I know a new coach and everything, but just hasn't quite found a way to win these close games, and that's what you have to do.
Yeah, they've been kind of like Division II's version of Red Lion. Like they still might be one of the best teams in that division, but they just haven't been able to close things out.
Yeah, and there's a team, because we're about to get into the other games, Bermudian Springs, they've won a couple of games but by blowout, and they had lost a few close games early in the season. They finally won an overtime game this past week against Delone Catholic, and that's a team that, just a young team that hadn't quite found a way to win games, finally seems to have figured it out, and that's what West York needs to do, because that record could be totally different than 2-5 if they could figure out a way to just close out a couple close games.
But West York's not just out of it yet. They have 1 loss, and they're sitting behind York Suburban and Dover, who are at 0 losses, but those 2 teams play each other this week, so right. West York's still not quite out of it. A win against Dover next week for West York would be huge, but we'll see where that goes. Anyway, right now York Suburban looks like the best team, arguably in Division II. They haven't won.
I mean, that's definitely an impressive win on the road. That says a lot, because that's a team that's kind of been flying under the radar a little. 5-2 now, but we hadn't talked a ton about them in previous weeks. But now, I mean, they're a team to definitely talk about.
Yeah, they've won 5 games in a row. They're very confident. They have the best offense, arguably, maybe besides Hanover in the league right now. Their 2 receivers, Brad Smith and Colin Mailman, are number 1 and 2 in catches in the entire league, which is nuts.
Yeah, you don't see too many high school teams with a really good passing game. You see a lot of teams rely on the run a lot, and maybe that opens up a big pass play here and there, but York Suburban just airs it out and is good at it.
Yeah, Suburban kind of does the opposite of that. They air it out, and then that opens up for a draw play here and there or a screen pass here and there.
Right, and so that the same way that teams that have a good kicker, that can make a difference in a close game, having a good pass game can make a difference in a close game in high school football.
Yeah, and their kicker showed up too, so they could win the close game. And I think that one showed them that had to be a huge confidence boost to be down 2 touchdowns on the road against West York, who wins the division almost every year.
Right.
And then to come back and get the win, especially in a 2-minute drive like that. And I mean, their confidence is flying high right now. They get Dover at home this week. I'll be at that one, so that should be an entertaining one. That's our game of the week this week. We'll talk more about that later, though. 2 other overtime games happened this week. One ended on a last-second play. Lots of excitement. Some other games that caught our attention, or one of those was actually Bermudian Springs 20, Delone 17 in double overtime. Spring Grove 24, Central 14. Spring Grove keeps chugging along, like we said. I mean, they keep winning games. They haven't beaten anybody impressive, but the record's still solid.
Yeah, and they'll get a chance this week hosting Northeastern, who's had a great season. That's a game where if Spring Grove wins that one, now kind of the way we didn't talk about Suburban a ton, and now we're talking about them, Spring Grove could get into the conversation by beating Northeastern on tomorrow.
Yeah, and putting the stats together every week, Spring Grove's defense has actually really stepped up this year. They have great numbers on defense. They have a great turnover ratio. They don't give up many yards. Northeastern, speaking of them, 35-8 win over William Penn on Northeastern's homecoming. Susky 42-20 over Eastern. The Warriors at 3-4, 2-1 in division. They're right there in the conversation as well.
Yeah, most of those points came late in the game. Eastern was up for a while, and since Susky offense just exploded.
Yeah, Susky's offense, which hasn't been good in the past couple of years. Eastern's defense is one of the best in the league this year. Susky put up 42, so great job for the Warriors. Coach Wiles has those guys on the right track. Red Lion dropped 61. That's an angry Red Lion team. They're tired of these close losses.
Yeah.
They're tired of not catching any breaks. They put up 61 on New Oxford, whose defense is pretty solid as well. 61-21. Hanover keeps chugging along, 36-14. They beat Littlestown. Coach Lippy has some nice things to say about Hanover afterward. Any of these games stand out to you?
I mean, the Spring Grove win, I don't think too many of us really thought Spring Grove was going to win that game. We thought Central York was kind of that, the best team after the Big Four. But it turns out it's Spring Grove, and now it just raises the question, maybe Spring Grove is a team that maybe it's not the Big Four, maybe it's the Big Five. So we'll find out tomorrow. That's the game I'm going to be covering. That's definitely the biggest one that stood out. But the way Susquehannock beat Eastern by that score, obviously, really jumps off the page. And so that's another team that's the same way as Spring Grove kind of hanging around, because now Susquehannock and West York are tied for second in Division II, and they're playing tomorrow.
Yeah, that Susky team is not going to be an easy win for anybody's schedule. Dover still has those guys left too. Dover's got a rough schedule coming down the stretch, but I mean, if you're trying to secure a division, you got Susky still left on the schedule. That's not a walkover.
Yeah, you can't overlook that one.
Yeah. I think Red Lion putting up 61 against a pretty solid defense is pretty. Dalton Grove came back from his one game, suspension or whatever for being ejected and throws 5 touchdowns.
That's
to
right.
avoid Gillespie. Hanover again just keeps winning. That's awesome for them. The other games we saw, Kennerdale gets their win overtime over Gettysburg, 21-14, and Kennerdale was trailing in that game 14-0, I believe, as we said.
I believe it was 14-0 going into the fourth quarter. Wow. And Kennerdale scored a couple touchdowns and then won in overtime.
Northern York 24 over Shippensburg 19. Northern York hasn't blown anybody out, but they just keep winning these close games.
They keep finding ways to win.
And all these opponents they're playing, you look at their schedule, and that division this year is almost like the SEC. Like their division's crazy, and they keep winning these 5-point games, 6-point games.
Yeah, they're not finding ways to beat bad teams. They're finding ways to beat good teams.
Yeah, and they haven't had the only knock on Northern I had in the previews was they haven't had that killer instinct yet. They've gone up 2 scores in some of these games and just let the other team hang around. One of those times that they keep doing that, the other team might catch them. Reading 26 over Dover. Dover doesn't really lose much there because it's an out of league game. Right. York Catholic 27 over Biglerville. I was kind of surprised by that one.
Yeah.
Wasn't
expecting that result, that's for sure.
Big Spring 21 over Redlands 7. Redlands offense, again, we keep talking about this every week, has just disappeared. They were averaging 35-plus points a game through the first couple weeks, and since then they haven't scored more than 7 or 14. Burm gets a huge win, 20-17 over DeLone. Even on a down year for Burm, they still beat up on their rival, DeLone Catholic. And York County Tech beat Fairfield on Saturday to give York County Tech their second win of the season, their first division win, leaving Fairfield as the only team without a division win. Zach, you were mentioning the York Catholic Biglerville. You expected Biglerville to win that game?
Yeah, absolutely. Biglerville got off to a really good start in Division III play after a couple losses early in the season to some tough out-of-league opponents. And now, Biglerville was keeping pace with Hanover, and they were both undefeated in division. Now suddenly Hanover's in sole possession of first place now that Biglerville's been knocked off. And you know what? York Catholic and Bermudian Springs, actually, after the overtime win, now it's York Catholic, Biglerville, and Burm all with one Division III loss, sitting one game behind Hanover. So it's really now, instead of just 2 teams in the mix, it's 4 in Division III, and that's not something I was expecting at all.
Yeah, so if Hanover slips up the rest of the way, maybe in that Biglerville game next week.
Yeah, they got Biglerville next week, and then DeLone the following week, which, DeLone's not having a great season, is sitting at 2-5 right now, but that's not a team that is just going to roll over, especially in a rivalry game.
Yeah, so if Hanover slips up at all the rest of the way, that division can end up being like a 4-way, 5-way split for the division title, basically.
Well, we'll see. York Catholic and Bermudian Springs play tomorrow, so you figure the loser of that game is kind of out, unless Hanover were to lose twice. So, but yeah, the fact that one of those teams is going to be right there heading into the last couple of weeks in the season is a little bit surprising, especially given the way they started.
And I don't think it can be said enough the job John Defoe is doing at Bermudian Springs to take that team after losing 20 starters and starting off the way they did, turn around and start winning these games already. They're programs go through cycles where they rebuild for 2 or 3 years. Defoe took 4 games to rebuild, and he's already got a competitive team.
And it would have been easy for them to roll over after starting 0-4 and be like, you know what, this really isn't our year. But they've turned around, they blew out a couple of lower level Division III teams, and then found a way to beat a tough opponent on the road in double overtime. And that says a lot because they they just couldn't quite figure out how to win close games early in the season. They've got it now, and so, I mean, look out.
And on the other side of that result, DeLone having trouble scoring. You don't see DeLone scoring more than 20 points lately.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about DeLone Catholic with the slow starts. In this game, they got up 14-0, and then only scored 3 points the rest of the game, and that was in overtime. So, I don't know. Corey Zortman figured out a way to get them starting faster, but they ran out of steam really quickly. So they need to find a way to keep it going for 48 minutes instead of just 12 or 24, because they look pretty good for 12 or 24, but they need to put it together.
It's also a very young squad, and I keep rolling with them because I keep thinking there's really not a team outside of Hanover as talented in that division as DeLone. There's just pure talent and skill there.
Right.
They just can't seem to put it together yet. Still a very young squad, though, but I keep rolling with them. I keep picking them every week, and they've been hurting me a couple times, but I think I picked them again this week, but we'll see that. When we come back after the next break, we're going to run through this week's ball games. We're going to jump in with York Suburban Dover and then preview a couple of D2 and D1 matchups. We'll see you then.
First place in Division II is on the line in the high school football game of the week presented by WellSpan Sports Medicine. I'm Ron Ruman. Gareth Hissong and I have the call as Dover meets York Suburban Friday at 6:30. The Eagles and Trojans sit atop the D2 rankings at 3-0, and the winner controls its destiny to a division title. Suburban can solidify its chances for a trip to the district playoffs, while Dover needs a win to stay in the thick of the playoff hunt. Dover at Suburban Friday at 6:30 on GameTimePA.com and Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Get ready for winter now and save big on your heating oil or propane costs. Call today to schedule your first fill, and don't forget to ask our energy advisors about the right money-saving plan or budget to fit your lifestyle. Lock in your rate and protect your price all winter. Our price-protected customers save an average of $325 per year. Visit ShipleyEnergy.com or call 855-4-SHIPLEY, and don't forget to ask about our $100 rebate. Shipley Energy, energy for life.
Previously on the York Revolution pregame show.
Everett George is our interview guest. Everett was signed up. Was it the whole homestand?
Yeah, the whole homestand.
And which was how many games?
7 games.
And you lasted in your role how many games?
1 game.
Have you been fired anywhere before?
Never. Post-game meal came down, and it was pulled pork and beans. I said, well, where's the buns? Where's the soda? Where's the water? And the coleslaw didn't come down till after everything was out. But I know what I can do. I can make a meal better with pulled pork, with beans. That's the reason I got fired, because I asked too many questions, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, they did me a favor. I don't have to, I can have 6 days off.
Rebs Baseball on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Saturday on Compass Media Network's coverage of NCAA football, it's a Pac-12 North battle on the farm as 10th-ranked Stanford hosts Washington. Hi, this is Matt Money Smith. Join Tony Hill and me for all the action as freshman running back Myles Gaskin looks to rush the Huskies past Kevin Hogan and a Stanford team that has not lost since week 1. It's Washington and Stanford. If it's NCAA football, it's right here.
Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Hi, I'm York Suburban football coach Andy Laux. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Back to Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350. I'm Brandon Stoneberg here with Zach Miller. We're going to jump into our Week 8 previews here for high school football. We're going to run through about 6 or 7 games now and then come back after the break and finish off the rest. Our game of the week this week is actually in Division 2. We spoke last segment about York Suburban. Their fan bases have been waiting 26 years for a division championship. They've bounced around different divisions, but they haven't won a championship in any of them since 1989, and in that year they split. So they really haven't had a sole possession of a division title in even longer than that.
Wow.
But it's within their grasp now. They control their own destiny. You win out, and the division championship is yours. They get Dover this week. Dover's also 3-0 division. Dover's had some more issues, though. Dover's on their 3rd or 4th quarterback now because of injuries.
Yep.
Their run game is strong. Their defense has had its moments. But right now, these two teams are tied at the top. They're going to meet Friday night at Dick May Stadium at York Suburban. and really whoever wins, I guess, controls their own destiny. Whoever wins, has a chance to win out and win the division. York Suburban, they have the league's top passing attack with Merkel, Mailman, Smith, those guys. The Eagles, they had won 3 in a row until they fell to Reading last week. They've cycled through their quarterbacks, like we said. Andy Lax, head coach for Suburban, said, though, beware of Dover's running attack. Durant Ledbetter is still dangerous when he gets in the open field, and he's a great kick returner and punt returner. He said their special teams and the running game is still very strong. Dover has the kind of system where you can plug anyone in back there. Brett Moan is also back there, and they have a strong running attack. Their defense is a ball hawking defense. They gave up some yards, but they forced 18 turnovers, which is tied for the best in the league. And then, like we said, Moan and Ledbetter, they've combined for 919 yards and 9 touchdowns in the backfield. So really, it's York Suburban's number one offense against Dover's ball hawking defense, and then Dover's running attack against York Suburban's defense.
Yeah, a key for Suburban is going to be to not turn over the ball, because that's something Dover's capitalized on a lot. When you're throwing the ball, you risk possible interceptions, but if York Suburban can avoid those and keep putting together drives through the air like they have all season, that should be enough to win the game. And I went with York Suburban in this one. I just feel like everything's kind of going Suburban's way lately. They've found the ways to win the close games. Right now, Dover's banged up, especially at the quarterback position, and the game is also at Suburban. So I think there's too much kind of going Suburban's way right now for Dover to be able to pull this one off.
Yeah, I also went Suburban. I think some teams lately have tried to kind of keep the ball out of Suburban's hands. The best way to counteract their offense is just keep them on the sideline.
Right, don't let them have the ball.
Yeah, but teams haven't really been able to do that. West York did it for the first half and it was very successful. They forced a 3-and-out, hold the ball for 6 minutes, force a 3-and-out, hold the ball for 6 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Dover's offense has that, and I think if York Suburban's passing attack lets them get up early, Dover's offense can't play catch-up. They don't have the passing attack to play catch-up.
That's true, but I suppose with the running game Dover has, if they can establish the running game and really, run the clock that way, take time between plays, run the ball, keep that clock moving, and if they get ahead early, now you got yourself a game. But you're right, if you're going to be playing from behind, that's a tough thing to do when you don't have much of an air attack and you're on your 5th quarterback.
Yeah, Dover's had their quarterback issues. Blazowski started the season. I believe he got hurt. They had a few others injured or ineligible, I believe. I'm not sure what the situation was. But definitely keep an eye on Durant Ledbetter. That's a huge playmaker. He's had a couple kick returns for touchdowns, a couple punt returns. He's been great out of the backfield as well. Brett Moan, like we said, him and Ledbetter together have almost 1,000 yards. Merkel, on the other side, closed in on the county record. I believe he's down to about 400 shy with 3 games to go. So very solid chance he breaks the record this season. But yeah, York Suburban is just, their confidence is sky high. I was out of practice this week. They're loose. They're fired up. They're playing music and jumping around. They're having a good time. They've won 5 in a row, and they've beaten some good teams. So I'm sticking with the Trojans at home. They've had a good home field advantage this year, and I'm expecting them to have the same thing.
It's hard to understate the importance of this one, too. You've got a team in Division I, Dallastown, and a team in Division III, Hanover, that are in sole possession of first place right now. Mm-hmm. Well, after this game, someone's going to be in sole possession of first place in Division II as well.
Yeah, and then if it is Suburban, or whoever comes out of this one, Suburban has an easier schedule down the stretch.
Right, because Suburban's already beat West York.
Yeah, and the only other one, the big one, and they beat Susky.
Oh, wow, okay.
So they have, I believe it's Gettysburg and Eastern after this one,
right?
Which is more of an easier schedule than Dover, who has West York and Susky next,
right?
So Dover's just coming into their part of the schedule. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so the issue is, can the Trojans pick up their 6th win and continue toward their first division title since '89, or does Dover take sole possession and hang on there? Dover's been in this position before. They won the division 2 years ago, so we'll see how they handle that one. We're both going Suburban though. Our next one, Division I, my alma mater, Central York, struggling, and then they're going to Horn Field and playing at Red Lion. The Lions coming off a 61-point performance against New Oxford. Central's defense hasn't exactly been stellar, so how many points can Red Lion put up on those guys?
Yeah, it seems like after the close losses, Red Lion is playing angry and wants to not just win, but kind of show the world and win by a lot. And Central York obviously struggling. The loss to Spring Grove last week is not something a lot of people expected, so it's hard to pick against Red Lion in this one, especially with the Lions being at home.
Yeah, I'm going with Red Lion too. I got to talk to my Panthers right now. You guys got to start playing with some pride. Some fans that are leaving the stadium are just saying that's not, that's a softer Central squad that I was there a few years ago. They're not playing with the same heart they used to. They've gotten too, complacent or too soft. I don't know what it is, but you lost to Spring Grove last week, a division rival, and they gave their coach an ice bath on your field. If that's not enough motivation, moving forward or getting embarrassed by a division rival, I don't know what is, but something's got to give there. So they need a big performance, and a win at Red Lion or a good performance at Red Lion would be a good start The Lions, on the other hand, just keep giving it to Kendrick Boyd Gillespie. I mean, the guy caught 10 passes for 202 yards and 5 scores last week, and Central has a worse pass defense than New Oxford.
Yeah, if he's going to do that every week, they're not going to lose again.
So we're both going Red Lion at home. Bounce to D3 now. DeLone at Fairfield. Zach, that's out in your area. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm sticking with DeLone here, even though it's been a tough few weeks, losing some close games for the Squires. But Fairfield's really not playing well lately at all. Went up to York Tech this past Saturday and got beat 30-8, I believe the score was. So Fairfield's really struggling. DeLone, just needs to figure out how to be more consistent, but we know they have the talent, and I think in this game they finally get things going in the right direction again with a win.
Yeah, I think DeLone comes away with this one. Like I said in the last segment, I keep rolling with these guys, and I'm pretty sure I picked them in 5 or 6 of their 7 games so far, and I've been hurt by them. But they're kind of like how West York was with you last week. I keep going back to them. I can't not pick DeLone for some reason, because every time I think they're the more talented team. They're at Fairfield. I think DeLone has a ton more talent in that matchup right now. Fairfield's having a down year. DeLone should win this game. If they don't, there's probably some questions to be answered, but I think DeLone wins this game. Maybe by a 10, 15, 20-point margin at the Green Knights. Another one of the teams out in your area, Gettysburg's traveling to Conrad Weiser. Now, last year, this came down to a last-second field goal, and Gettysburg came away with a win, and this was the big win that kind of boosted them into the district playoffs. This year, Gettysburg's not so good.
Yeah, Gettysburg's really struggling this year, and the loss last week at Kennardale, who only had 1 win on the season, and blowing a 14-0 lead in the fourth quarter and losing in overtime is rough. And Conrad Weiser hasn't lost as much as Gettysburg has, and looks a lot more like the team that Gettysburg saw last year than Gettysburg does. So I went with Conrad Weiser in this one. Also, it's a long trip for Gettysburg to go all the way up there, and the Scouts are playing pretty well lately, 5-2, playing in the LL League. So I went with the Scouts.
Yeah, anytime you have a good LL team playing a struggling York Adams team, especially this year, the bet is to take the safe bet is to take the LL team, and Conrad Weiser didn't take a step back like Gettysburg did. I think this one in Conrad Weiser, I think the Scouts come away with a win here. And really, the York Adams League just hasn't had much luck against the LL or Mid-Penn this year, so almost any time they play a team...
Yeah, it's been a rough out-of-conference season for the York Adams League.
For sure. So we're both going Conrad Weiser there. I think we're on board pretty much all the way here so far. One I skipped, actually. I forgot this one. Eastern York at Kennardale. Sorry, guys. Forgot that Division II matchup. Golden Knights at the Rams, making the trip out to Fawn Grove. Who you got?
I took Eastern York. This is going to be an offense versus defense game because Kennardale plays really good offense, and Eastern York typically, at least for 3 quarters last week, I don't know what happened in the last quarter, but Eastern York typically plays really good defense, and I'm going with defense over offense because I think Eastern York will be able to put up points on the Kennardale defense, and if they can just hold Kennardale, you don't have to shut them out. You don't have to hold them to 10. If you hold them to 20 or 28 even, you could probably score enough to win. So I went with the Knights, but I know there's some people going with the Rams on this one too. It's a good game.
Yeah, the Rams have been more respectable, I think, than they have in the past couple of years. And their offense can put up points as they've proven. Really, it's the issue with the Rams though is they can't hold on to the ball at times. They've coughed the ball up 23 times in 7 games, and they face a defense in Eastern that's tied for league lead with 18 forced turnovers. So I think that'll be a key matchup to keep an eye on, whether the Rams can hold on to the ball. So yeah, I think Eastern, if their defense can show up and hold Kennardale, can Eastern's offense do enough? Eastern's been hit with the injury bug too. They've had some issues on the offensive side. I'm still sticking with Eastern here. I've stuck with them through a lot of games. I think they're better than the record shows. So I'm sticking with them in Fawn Grove. But this could be a toss-up. If Kennardale wins that one, that's 3 wins for them, after winning 3 wins combined.
Yeah, and Division 2 has been kind of all over the place this year, so you never know.
Yeah, it could be a huge win for Kennardale. If them and Susky both, have 3 wins through 8 weeks, it'd be huge for those guys. Littlestown, Biglerville, the Canners, Bolts. Who do you guys at?
I'm in with the Canners. It's hard to pick Littlestown these days. They've been really struggling lately. And, Biglerville, tough loss last week at York Catholic. A little disconcerting for the Canners if they think they're a contender for the Division III title, but I think this is a week they get back on track and gain a little confidence going into the big game when they host Hanover next week.
Yeah, and Coach Ramos was a little bit angry at the calls last week in the York Catholic game. He thought that they probably took away some potential points from the Canners. Ramos is always a good one to quote after the game. He's always got something fun to say, but I agree with you. I'm taking Biggerville at home. I think they bounce back. I just think they're too good of a team right now. Littlestown is struggling through another season. The Bulls just haven't been really consistent. They've hung, like you said in the preview capsules, they kind of hung with teams, but they haven't been able to.
Yeah, they're a team that tends to play pretty well in the first half, and you check the scores at halftime, and you're like, hey, Littlestown's in it. Then you check the score after the game, and you're like, oh, what happened? Because they just coming out of halftime. I don't know if it's making adjustments or just getting worn down, but they've definitely struggled in the second half of games.
I think right now Biggerville's the more talented team. Littlestown has some talent. Boyd's put up some better numbers this year than they did last year. Quarterback Wes Story's having a great season. A running back, he's one of the league's best in the backfield.
Yeah, and there might be another win on the schedule for Littlestown. I just don't think it's this week.
I agree with you. Another one, Jackson Hornbrook at wide receiver for them. He's had a few big games. He's jumped up into the leaderboard. So there's talent here and there for Littlestown. They just haven't been able to put together 4 solid quarters yet. So we're riding with the Canners in that one at home. We think they get back to 4-1 in the division and hang with Hanover, setting up a big one next week against the Nighthawks.
Yeah, it's definitely one to circle on the calendar.
Mechanicsburg at Redland. These are 2 struggling mid-pen teams right now. Mechanicsburg hasn't won yet this year, and they've been blown out most of the time. Redland, after they started off 2-1, have lost 4 in a row now. They can't seem to stop the run, Redland I'm talking about. Redland has given up combined 510 rushing yards the last 2 weeks. But on the other side, Mechanicsburg can't move the ball. They've managed 74 total yards of offense the last week in the loss. So this could get ugly. I'm not sure. Maybe this is the one that gets Redland's confidence back. Justin Johnson's playing. I checked the numbers. He's still playing. I mean, the guy racked up 800 yards in the first 3 weeks.
Early on.
He's been slowed down. I think he had 80 yards last week. He averaged 3 yards a carry. So either team's figured out Redland's offense, or they're just not clicking or something. I still went with Redland at home though in this matchup because I just think Mechanicsburg is just not a good team right now.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, as bad as Redland's offense has been, it's hard to pick a Mechanicsburg team that hasn't found a way to win a game this season. And so this could be low scoring, 2 really struggling offenses, but I think Redland gets it done at home.
Last one for this segment, we're back up at Division I. New Oxford at Dallastown. Kevin Myers talked after their win last week that this wouldn't be – you talked to him after the game. He mentioned New Oxford specifically.
Yeah, I mean, his team treats every game like it's the championship game, and he knows that New Oxford's going to come in wanting to knock off Dallastown because Dallastown has the target on its back now as the number 1 team in Division I. And, New Oxford – played some really good defense early in the season. I think they're a little beat up. The defense isn't playing as well lately. It's going to be a tough game going on the road. Another team that has to take a long bus ride out to Dallastown. And so I think Dallastown's going to be okay in this one, but this could be another low-scoring game as 2 pretty good defenses.
I think the thing with New Oxford, you mentioned them being beat up. They're one of the smallest teams in that division, so they're the smallest team, I believe.
Right, they don't have the same depth that some of these other teams do.
I mean, Dallastown might have 70 guys on the roster. New Oxford might have 40, so they start to wear down toward the end, and this is a good matchup for Dallastown this time of year. New Oxford, I want you guys to get the ball in Trayvon Brown's hands more. The guy's averaging 25 yards a catch, but he has 15 catches all season. I know you're not much of a passing offense, but with that much talent, get the ball in his hands and see what he can do.
Yeah, he's a good athlete. He's actually related to Eric Harris, the CFL player.
Yeah.
They are their brother, maybe like half brothers or something. I don't know what the deal is, different last names, but they're related. And he was obviously a really good New Oxford player, and Trayvon's been a pretty good player as well.
Trayvon's having a good season. Defensive back too. I know he had 3 interceptions last year. He's doing pretty well this year. Dallastown on the other side, if you get ahead, try and boost some guys' confidence besides Cade Gold. Find somebody else who in a few weeks you can give the ball to.
Yeah, Jake Jansen's been quiet. At least last week against Southwestern. So maybe if you can get him going again, that could be big heading into the postseason.
He's been quiet. I know Dylan Callahan and Zion Devance have had their moments here and there, but no one's really stepped up as the playmaker. As the playmaker for the fourth quarter. It's been all Cade Gold. So find some support for him. I'm still rolling with Dallastown. I think we agreed on pretty much every call in that one.
We did on this segment, but we're going to have a couple that we disagree on in the second segment. I know it.
We will for sure. I think I went 2 road teams. Anyway. All right, so when we come back from the next segment, we're going to talk Northeastern Spring Grove to lead off. We're going to jump into a few other Division I, Division II matchups. We'll see you after the break.
Payne doesn't take Sunday off. Neither do we. We're open weekdays 8 to 8 and weekends 9 to 6. Just walk into WellSpan Urgent Orthopedics, 2319 South George Street in York, across from the Apple Hill Health Campus. Visit wellspan.org/urgent orthopedics today.
It's going to be another epic year in high school football, and Sports Radio 1350 is ready for kickoff. Tune in every Friday night this fall for the high school football game of the week, presented by Wellspan Sports Medicine. Plus, go to WOYK1350.com for a full breakdown of the teams and the players of the 2015 York Adams League, the high school football game of the week, presented by Wellspan Sports Medicine. Catch the action every Friday night on Sports Radio 1350, online at WOYK1350.com, or download the WOYK mobile app.
Sports Radio 1350 WOYK honors the Shipley Energy Student Athlete of the Week.
This week's Shipley Energy Football Student Athlete of the Week is Kendrick Boyd Gillespie from Red Lion. The star wide receiver caught 10 passes for 204 yards and 5 touchdowns, all from quarterback Dalton Grove in Red Lion's 61-21 road win at New Oxford. This week's Shipley Energy Girls Student Athlete of the Week is Bree Hackos from Central York Soccer. Her overtime goal clinched a 2-1 win over Spring Grove and a YAI AA Division I title for the Panthers. And this week's Shipley Energy Boys Student Athlete of the Week is Sam Johnson from Bermudian Spring Soccer. Johnson netted 2 goals in a 5-0 win over Hanover, then added 2 more in a 6-1 win over Littlestown that clinched the Eagles' first Division III title since 2004.
Get your home ready for fall and winter and sign up for the Shipley Energy Protection Plan. For more information, visit ShipleyEnergy.com.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
Do it for me. Do it for America.
Rich Eisen.
Looks like Mark Sanchez. This is his team now. And he dropped a 50-yard dime on Jeremy Macklin in his first pass attempt. And Jason Peters says he didn't know it was Sanchez back there. He didn't know that Foles went out. He turns around to celebrate with his quarterback and give him an attaboy. And it's Sanchez.
The Rich Eisen Show.
Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Hi, this is John Shapansky, head coach of Northeastern Bobcats. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Welcome back to Game Day with GameTimePA on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. We're closing in close to the bottom of the hour now. We're going to run through the rest of our Week 8 previews. We have 6 more games to talk about to get you guys ready for this week's football action. Our first one we're going to talk about is the one, Zach, I believe you're going to be at this one, Northeastern at Spring Grove. Both teams, one loss in division, both trying to hang in that division race. What are you seeing in this one?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good defensive battle. These are 2 teams that don't put up huge offensive numbers, but play some pretty good defense. And I'm actually going with the upset on this one. This is the first one we're going to disagree on. I'm taking Spring Grove because I think in a low-scoring game like this, it's going to really behoove a team to have a really good kicker like Spring Grove does in Andrew Luckenbaugh. And I think that can make the difference in a close, low-scoring game like this one.
I think you're the only one out of our group of so-called experts to take Spring Grove in this one. I think a lot of people aren't quite sold on Spring Grove, and that's really not a knock on them. It's just because their schedule so far hasn't allowed for them to have a really a big win. The big teams they have played, they lost to.
Right.
The Cumberland Valleys, who most teams will lose to.
Yeah, it was a tough out-of-conference slate for them. And, I mean, York Suburban they lost to, but it's, now it's kind of looking like, hey, York Suburban's a pretty good team.
Yeah, they lost to Suburban by 7, and they lost to Downtown by, I believe, 10.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've been in these games. So their 3 losses aren't bad. It's just their wins aren't very good right now. Northeastern won last year. Northeastern 6-1, 3-1. Their only loss is to a 1-point loss to Dallastown this year.
Yeah, I think part of the reason that most people are seeing Northeastern win this game too, it's not just about Spring Grove's record and not having beaten a so-called quality opponent yet, but Northeastern's having a great season and has found ways to win games and is really, if it weren't for Cade Gold going off in the fourth quarter against Dallastown, Northeastern could be 7-0 too.
Northeastern's offense has to get going again. Shannon Valenti's been kind of quiet the past few weeks, especially passing the ball.
And even last week playing William Penn, Northeastern kind of took a while to heat up with the offense. And so that's a little disconcerting because you get it when you're playing a Dallastown or a Red Lion in the rain. It's okay if you're not scoring a ton of points, but, when you're kind of struggling a little bit to get started against William Penn, that's a little bit of a red flag to me.
Yeah, and they have the talent on that offensive side of the ball, so I'm not sure what is kind of slowing them down because they have Chris Wack, Anu Johnson, Shannon Valenti, David Anke. These guys are talented players. They should be scoring more points and moving the ball easier than they are right now. But I'm going with Northeastern on the road. I still think they're a better team than Spring Grove right now. I'm not. If Spring Grove wins this one, I'll eat my words next week and say, sure, they're one of the best teams in the division. But right now, I'm not sold on Spring Grove. I think they've gotten in this position a few times the last few years. Last year, I was riding the Spring Grove bus. I said, they're the best team in the division. They're the best team in the division. And then they came out and got spanked at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, this is a statement game either way because either Northeastern's offense gets back on track and it says, hey, we haven't gone anywhere. We're still here to play. And especially they'll take on Southwestern next week. So, it's a statement saying, we're not messing around. We're still here. And we're waiting for Dallastown to fail so we can jump back into first. Where Spring Grove, obviously, it's a statement to finally beat a team with a winning record. And
we've talked before about how 2 losses in that division is pretty much deadly if you want to win the division.
Right, so it's kind of an elimination game.
Yeah, whoever loses this one might be out of the division race. Still, both these teams right now are in the district playoffs, but it would kind of knock you out of the division race. I'm going Northeastern. Zach's going Spring Grove. Zach will be there. Follow him for updates Friday night. Follow Game Time as well, as always. Next one, we got Northern York, the Polar Bears, going to play the Greencastle Antrim Blue Devils. The Greencastle Antrim Blue. I never understood that. I never know why.
My high school back in New Jersey was the Red Devils, but we wore green, so we were the Green Red Devils.
That doesn't make much sense either. Greencastle. This is actually one of the best games on our slate this week, but it's at Greencastle, so we won't be able to see it. Our guys out in Chambersburg will be able to see it.
Right, which you can still follow them on the GameTimePA Twitter account for updates. We'll have one of our Chambersburg full-timers, I would imagine, out at that game.
I got to see Greencastle last year. They're very, very good team. Northern York right now, though, they're going for their 6th straight win. Their fans are all about this team right now. I mean,
yeah.
Their fan base is fired up. Their coaches are fired up. This is the best Northern team they've seen in a while. Going on the road against one of the perennial powerhouses out there, Greencastle Antrim, though, this will be a tough one for them. A long road trip for Northern York, too. That's a tough trip out there. I mean, that's way out there south of Chambersburg, so a long drive from Dillsburg. Really what I want to see for Northern, though, I want them to go for the knockout. I mean, they've allowed their last 3 opponents to hang around deep into the second half before putting them away. And really, they still didn't even put them away. They've won by 5 here.
Yeah, they seem to be comfortable playing that tight, Ajita-filled situation.
And their defense has been solid. Their defense still has not given up more than 19 points in the game all season, which at the high school level, usually, that's pretty unheard of.
Right.
So I want to see them be able to finish off Greencastle if they get ahead. If there's an offense in the league that's going to find a weakness in that Northern defense, it's Greencastle's offense. They've scored at least 30 points in 5 different games this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have a couple of real big numbers on there where they've gotten into the 40s and 50s.
They're a fast-paced. They like to run the no huddle every now and then. They're a very fast-paced, up and down the field offense. So I think this might be the biggest challenge for Northern York's defense.
Mm-hmm. Nevertheless, I'm taking Northern York because you can't pick against the Polar Bears at this point. They find ways to win.
Yeah, I'm saying I'm still going with Northern. They stayed hot. I picked against them the one time. I picked against them once and I lost and they won. But I'm going Northern York on this one at Greencastle. We're both going Northern. Next one on our slate: Southwestern at William Penn Division I matchup. Mustangs at Bearcats. I was at the William Penn school board meeting last night. A lot of parents, a lot of former coaches are very upset with the school board, with the athletic department. They want changes. They want it immediately. They don't want to wait. They don't want to hear about plans. They don't want to talk. They said enough talking. We want some kind of change now. Some of these parents are thinking that this program isn't around much longer if a change isn't made. I mean, they have kids. They're struggling to field 25 to 30 kids right now. They're a quad A school in Division I.
Right.
I mean, they came close, at least from what we've heard, to almost having to forfeit games. Earlier this season. They're having kids not showing up to practice from what we've heard. We've heard things about a disconnect. When I was at the school board meeting yesterday, the parents and coaches were talking about a disconnect between the coaches and players. The coaches don't respect them, don't want to come to practice, and the coaches aren't doing anything to teach these kids. So there's a big disconnect there. And William Penn, the program has been in trouble for a while now. I mean, even the school board said, "Where's the Bearcat pride?" These stands are a quarter filled up. When I was in high school, when I was at Central, late 2000s, teams were scared to play York High. That was the best team in the division year in and year out. Now, all of a sudden, Northeastern is scheduling William Penn for homecoming. If you would have said that 5 years ago, people would have been shocked.
What are you thinking?
What are you talking about? Now York High is the cupcake on team schedule, and they've fallen off a long way. They're trying to get that pride back, and they're trying to turn this thing around, and there seemed to be a good initiative yesterday between the school board and the parents to get something going. A lot of emotion, a lot of tension. This community is tired of seeing these guys lose. Tired of seeing the way they're losing is even worse. They're not showing much fight.
The blowout games and the ridiculously lopsided scores. Obviously, it's rough. we hope they get things figured out, whether it's changes, whether it's something else that needs to be done to get everything back on track. You obviously hope that they can figure it out. I don't think it's going to happen overnight or by the end of the season, but you hope at least maybe by the beginning of next season they're back on track.
And it's definitely not a talent thing. There's plenty of talent in the York City School District. They've shown that before. They've won plenty of games before. They sent plenty of players to Division I colleges, Malik Jennerette, Knowledge Timmons, and these guys. Like I said, when I was here for high school, they were the class of the league. I came back from college, and people were talking about them going 1-9, 2-8.
Right.
So they've fallen off a long way. Anyway, I had to get on my soapbox there for a minute because I got to see the school board meeting yesterday, and I called up in a moment. They're hosting Southwestern tomorrow night. Who do you got Southwestern here, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I got Southwestern. I think tough loss to Dallastown last week. A game that, maybe if it's an extra 5 minutes long, maybe Southwestern finds a way to win it. But I think Southwestern bounces right back, wins this one, and still is in the mix if Dallastown falters later in the season.
Yeah, I think so too. And the Bearcats have had a tendency this year to dig themselves in the hole early. Southwestern can put up some points quick. I think Southwestern jumps out to a big early lead and kind of cruises the rest of the way. Bearcats, there's plenty of positions that have question marks. So right now, quarterback is the biggest one. Arguably the most important position on the field. Bearcats have cycled through 5 different guys playing quarterback this year. They've turned the ball over, I believe, 26 times or something like that. They've had a really rough time this year. Any positives at this point for the Bearcats before their season closes would be a good thing. I'm still rolling with the Mustangs in this one. Another one that was tricky to pick, and at the beginning of the season, if you would have said this is a tricky one, people wouldn't have believed you. West York at Susky. All of a sudden, these two teams are tied for second place in the division.
Yeah, this is a little bit like that Spring Grove Northeastern game where it's kind of an elimination game, this time in Division II. And it's not like we were ever talking about Susky being in the mix, just the same way we were never talking about Spring Grove being in the mix in Division I. But yeah, now it's Susky is at home facing a West York team that's 2-5 with a chance to kind of knock West York off and move into second place, with a tie with whoever loses the Suburban Dover game. So, definitely a huge opportunity for Susky, for Coach Wiles. This is the game where if you feel like you're turning the program around, it's nice to have a few wins under your belt. It's nice to beat Gettysburg and Eastern York, but if you beat West York, that's a big deal. But like I say every week, I can't help myself. I picked West York again. 8 weeks in a row now.
I think I picked West York in this one too. I think Susky's a good team, especially at home. I think they have a chance here, but I think even seeing West York last week, they went toe-to-toe. They were the better team than York Suburban for 47 minutes of that game. And we're talking about York Suburban being the best team in the division.
Right.
So I still think West York might be the most talented team there. Ryan Narber's a great running back. Folk and Canes have proved to be one of the best wide receiver quarterback duos in the league. Tons of talent. Their defense, played well for most of the game. I just think right now they're the better program still than Susky. I think they're still the better team. I think they're used to winning. I think they can come out and win this game at Susky. The other thing that hurts Susky is you never want to hear about a hazing incident within your football program.
Yeah.
Especially the day before a big game like this.
Yeah, who knows what that ends up being, but there was a hazing situation in Sayreville High School in New Jersey last season that shut the program down for the rest of that season. So, you hope it's nothing like that at Susky, but yeah, it could definitely be a distraction. You're absolutely right about that.
And it definitely takes these kids' focus away from, the play on the field. They're finally starting to get going. And
this is a team you still need to be well prepared for, even though West York's 2-5.
Yeah, I think we're still rolling with West York here, but that was another toss-up one. That could be a huge, huge, huge win for Susky. If they move to 500 and stay within one game of division lead this late in the season.
Yeah, and then get a shot at Dover soon after. Susky's still in the mix, especially with a win this week.
Could be a big couple of weeks for those guys. Division 3 now the rest of the way. York Catholic at Burm. Who you got?
I went with Burm. This is the other one we're going to disagree on, I have a feeling. York Catholic is playing well lately, has some momentum, but really if you look at it, they've played their best football at home. They played a nice game against DeLone Catholic a few weeks ago, played Biglerville real tough last week. Yokomic, the quarterback, seems to play very, very well at home. Kennard seems to be healthy again at running back. So it's easy to see why people like York Catholic, but I think last week's win for Bermudian, beating DeLone 20-17 in double overtime, I think says a lot about this team, that they finally have found a way to win games, which I feel like was the biggest thing they were missing all season long. I think at home, that's a little bit of a hike for York Catholic to make. They have not played as well on the road. I went with Bermudian Springs to get back to 500.
I went the other way. I went York Catholic. I think Hakeem Kennard last year gave Bermuda a lot of trouble. I think Jakar Kennard gives them a ton of trouble this week. Berm's defense has still been great, and their offense has had its moments with Ashton West. Mm-hmm. So this is another really big toss-up game. This might be the best or closest game of the week, really, on our slate of schedule.
Yeah, this is we mentioned, the Northeastern Spring Grove game is an elimination game in Division I. The West York Sussex game is an elimination game in Division II. This is our elimination game in Division III. It's kind of elimination weekend across all three divisions.
Yeah, I'm going here with York Catholic. I think Jakar Kennard has a big game. I think they come out with a win. There's the same thing with York Catholic. I picked them a few times. I think also them coming off a big win. Both these teams are coming off impressive wins.
Right.
York Catholic beat Biglerville, who we've talked about maybe the best team in Division III, other than Hanover.
Yeah, I mean, these are two teams that we kind of thought it was just a 2-horse race in Division III, but these teams said, no, it's a 4-horse race, actually. We're still in the mix.
But you're absolutely right. I think this is an elimination game. I think in any of these divisions, 2 losses is a death sentence, basically. Yeah. So I think you have to be able to stay within one game at least and hope somebody else slips up. I'm riding with York Catholic this one, and I picked against the Irish a couple of times, and they proved me wrong, especially last week. I went Canners, so I'm trying to jump on York Catholic and see if I can ride them to a few wins. Last one, York County Tech at Hanover.
You got to go with Hanover here. 7-0. York County Tech is 2-5. Hanover seems to be doing everything right every week. They really aren't even in that many nail biters anymore as they've been in the Division III schedule. This is, it's almost become like an old story because this team just takes care of business every week. But we'll definitely be talking about them next week, as they'll be going up to Biglerville for a big game next week, and I expect them to be 8-0 going into that one.
The only thing is though, they can't start looking ahead too early. Don't
That's true.
Don't slip into a trap game here because York County Tech has stayed close with some tough teams.
Just had a big win last week against Fairfield, and Wiggins, I believe, is the name of the
Demarius Wiggins
quarterback. Had a huge game, and if he does that against Hanover, it could be a little bit of a dogfight.
I saw these guys earlier this season. They have some guys, Khalif Savory, Josiah Smallwood, Demarius Wiggins. They have some playmakers, Matt Rossi. There's some guys who can make some plays on York County Tech, and they're scrappy. They'll keep you tied down in a weird 18-12 type game that you don't want to be in.
Right.
I think this one they'll be in Hanover. I think Hanover's home field advantage is huge right now. I think they're riding high. I'm still going Nighthawks. I think they get to 8-0. I think that sets them up for that big Biglerville DeLone stretch down the stretch here.
Yeah, if you're Hanover too, you kind of want to go for the jugular early and maybe be able to rest some guys in the second half, have them real fresh for that Biglerville game.
And don't let a team like York County Tech stick around because they'll make some plays late. A team like that, you let them stick. The longer you let them stick around, the more confidence they're going to build.
Right.
So I think like you said, go for the jugular early, try and knock them out. Keep the ball in Jordan Lockman's hands. He's having a huge year. The running game in general is having a huge year.
Yeah, and if you can get the ball to Rashawn Williams, that seems to go pretty well whenever that happens.
Yeah. But both going to Hanover on that one. We'll see how that one goes. Hanover won last year on a down year for Hanover, if that means anything to you guys. Anyways, that'll do it for our Week 8 preview. We're going to come back after the break. We're going to do our Crazy Cousin segment. I'm going to throw some talking points, some questions, some quizzes towards Zach Miller. We're going to see if our guy Teddy Feinberg can make it to the studio in time.
He should be joining us. We'll see if he makes it.
We'll see. We'll see you guys after the break.
This is a Radio PA news update. Pennsylvania is being accused in a federal lawsuit of violating the rights of mentally ill defendants by subjecting them to long waits in jail before sending them to a hospital to determine whether they can be rehabilitated to stand trial. The lawsuit was filed in Harrisburg Federal Court by the American Civil Liberties Union and the Arnold and Porter law firm. The suspension of Attorney General Kathleen Kane's law license is effective today. A Dauphin County activist is hoping that suspension will make his recent lawsuit more urgent. Activist Gene Stilp has filed suit against Governor Tom Wolf and the Pennsylvania Senate in an attempt to force them to use a constitutional provision known as direct removal to get Kane out of office.
She'll still be a member of the bar, but that does not allow her to practice law in any fashion, especially as Attorney General.
Democrats in the state Senate are applauding a decision by the state treasurer to halt a previously announced payment to charter schools. David Payne reports.
$45 million from casino proceeds was to have gone to charter schools, but a letter from Senate Democrats to State Treasurer Tim Reese sought a suspension of that payment. Senator Andy Dinniman, ranking Democrat on the Senate Education Committee, says there are legal concerns to iron out.
All of our schools, whether they be public or charter, are hurting. And we want to make sure that any monies we give out, and remember, gaming monies are not budgeted money, so they can go to the school even without a budget. We want to make sure it's done in accordance with the law. But the question is, which law?
State Auditor General Eugene D. Pasquale also weighed in, saying the only solution is for the governor and legislature to end the stalemate and come up with a budget that provides adequate and fair resources for educating students. I'm David Payne.
And a suburban Philadelphia man has been sentenced to 18 to 36 months in state prison in what investigators had called one of the largest invasion of privacy cases in the region. Authorities say 38-year-old Sean Moses secretly recorded women and girls in fitting rooms at the beach and through apartment windows. I'm Rachel McDevitt, and you're up to date from Radio PA.
They did it in California, New York, and New Jersey. Across the country, Verizon is forcing customers off their traditional telephone service and onto less reliable and oftentimes more expensive wireless networks. By cutting access to reliable landlines, Verizon has put our schools, businesses, and general safety at risk. To find out more and to tell your legislators to put an end to Verizon's tactics, visit don'thanguponme.com. Paid for by Consumers 2020.
Students, when I call the reason for your absences throughout the years, please exit the auditorium without your high school diploma. Too tired, family trip, sick day, starting the holidays early.
Starting in the 6th grade, students who miss 18 days or more of school in a year for any reason will fall behind and risk not graduating high school. How many days of school has your child missed this year? Absences add up. Keep track at boostattendance.org.
First in York, first in sports. Your only local sports station. The new Sports Radio 1350. WOYK, York, Pennsylvania.
Call Quicken Loans now.
Special report, Clinton Benghazi testimony. Round 2 of questioning by the House Select Committee on Benghazi underway. Secretary Clinton said Ambassador to Libya Chris Stevens did not address any security concerns with her.
I communicated with him about certain issues. He did not raise security with me. He raised security with the security professionals. Now, I know that's not the answer you want to hear because it's being asked in many different ways by committee members.
Mrs. Clinton doubling down on the issue of security in Benghazi.
Chris Stevens never recommended that we close Benghazi. He advocated for keeping Benghazi open.
Before returning for questioning, committee member and Maryland Democrat Elijah Cummings says he believes the questioning is about one thing.
This has been a constant drumbeat to disrupt, destroy the campaign of Hillary Clinton.
Testimony is expected to continue the rest of the day and into the night. I'm John Trout. A U.S. service member has been killed as U.S. Special Operations troops and Iraqi forces freed about 70 ISIS captives in northern Iraq. The Pentagon says a number of militants were killed and valuable intelligence recovered. U.S. safety regulators say 8 people died, 98 injured by exploding airbags made by Takata Corporation.
But a year after the defect was identified and recalls began, only a fraction of the vehicles have been repaired. A top priority for regulators is to order automakers to speed up repair efforts in high humidity regions. Regulators may allow independent repair shops, not just new car dealers, to do repairs, and order Takata to do additional testing on replacements to make sure the new parts don't carry the same defect. Dick Hafner, Detroit.
Nonviolent drug offenders could be eligible for shorter prison sentences under legislation approved today by a Senate panel. On Wall Street, the Dow up 303, the NASDAQ up 70, the S&P up 32 points. I'm John Trout.
Imagine a store that lets you get anything you wanted. An HD flat screen TV, a high-capacity, ultra-quiet washer and dryer, a complete living room set. And imagine if you didn't need a lick of credit to get it. That store simply believed in you. Imagine if they even delivered it, set it up, and serviced it at no additional cost. Well, that store exists. That's Rent-A-Center. Imagine that. No credit needed. Affordable payment plans. Delivery, setup, and service included. Imagine new possibilities at Rent-A-Center. Rental purchase transaction. See store for details.
Welcome to Staples.
Hey, Staples guy. My store just opened down the street.
And you need to get the word out. Right. Staples is your one-stop shop for all printing and marketing needs.
You can print grand opening flyers?
Yes.
Grand opening banners?
No problem.
Custom t-shirts?
Piece of cake.
You sell cake?
It's just the same.
Now at Staples, get 20% back on all color printing. Copy and print more for less. At Staples, make more happen.
Earn 20% back in Staples rewards on full-service color copying and printing online and in-store. Ends 11/7/15. Exclusions apply. For full details, visit...
Hi, this is Jesse Shea, head coach of the Red Lion Lions. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Welcome back to Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350. We got the extra break. We're rejuvenated right now. Teddy's in the house.
What up?
We got that second half pickup we needed.
Here, baby. Let's do this.
We needed that 6 man off the bench, and that's what he provided today.
No doubt. Give me the rock. I got some free balls on me.
So now we got some new energy in here. We got some DMX music that brought us in. Thanks to our guy Ray. We're feeling good right now. We're going to do our Crazy Cousin segment. I'm going to toss some questions your guys' way and see what you got. Zach, you love this part. College football playoff system in the York Battle.
That's right.
4 teams right now. Who would you pick?
We got to talk about York Suburban getting in this 4-team mix. I was thinking about it.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
We've been discriminating against Division 2. We haven't mentioned a Division 2 team.
Yeah, it's time. It's time to maybe one more week, but I really think it's time to seriously consider York Suburban for this because we've been.
Just a point of order, Zach and I picked West York again.
Yeah.
Oh, and I want to say this: I went against West York this week. They're going to win. You know they are. You know it's coming.
So you'd have. I'm saying Dallastown, Suburban, Hanover. And then you get one wild card team.
So it's got to be Northeastern or Southwestern.
Or Dover.
I still like Southwestern. It's really, that win against Carlisle is just something no other team has. Southwestern's the only team to actually beat somebody out of the conference. That's got to count for something.
Zach's got this bracketology, blank resume thing, and he loves that early season win against the top
hang up
team.
the blank resumes. By the way, speaking of blank resumes, let's put Hanover's schedule up there. Hanover has
but you know the thing is, I'm with you there. But here's my argument against that: you need Boise State in there.
Yeah, you need a wild card in there.
I guess.
You just do.
Hanover,
it's part of the playoff system.
I can't wait till Hanover plays Biggerville because right now every team Hanover's beat has a losing record, and some of them don't even have a win. James Buchanan has no wins.
But remember, and honestly, okay, you're I don't disagree with what you're saying, but the thing is that Hanover. Just remember, in years past, it was Hanover the one that you were like, look at who this team's played, Hanover. Yeah. This, so at least they flipped the script. In that respect.
And there's no reason not to put them there. You can't punish them for the schedule they have.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
you can't.
Obviously, the whole reason, it's funny that I love doing this every week, but I hate when they do it for college football because it's just wait till the end, wait till everything's settled, then do it. But it's fun to talk about.
Now you know what those people are going through.
Yeah, exactly.
Ripped constantly.
I think, first of all, it's tough. Dover would have an argument with this because they have the same record and they're tied with York Suburban. So why do we automatically put York Suburban in over Dover?
Well, York Suburban's got a better out of division track record, and also York Suburban beat Spring Grove, which at first wasn't a big deal. Now it's hey, that's kind of a decent win, a better win than we thought originally, which is the kind of things that happens over the course of a season. Is you start to realize the wins that happen early on are better or worse than you thought at the time.
And they beat Susky, which turned out better than
that's
looked
another
earlier.
one.
And they stayed with Northeastern. They hung with Northeastern for that whole
Oh
week.
well, they lost to Northeastern.
Who are you talking about?
Wait,
Suburban. Did they play Northeastern or Redland?
Yeah, they played Redland. They lost, though.
Okay, never mind.
That's true. You got to remember, Redland can't score points anymore. So
they're talking about falling off of the
cliff. They played Redland in their prime.
In their prime, yeah.
Here's the bottom line. Honestly, this is definitely there's always going to be someone left out that you want to put in there. I just have to go Dallastown, Northeastern, Southwestern right off the bat. We're talking D1.
Still staying with all three D1
honestly,
teams.
So I'm with Teddy. I think I gotta put Suburban as number 5, the definitive number 5.
And here's the thing, and whether it's right or wrong, honestly, first of all, their offense is cooking. I think that first year head coach has done a great job. I take nothing away from them. But my perception is that D2 is just down this year. Whether that's fair, unfair, maybe just because West York is down, but that's just my perception. So, the question is, what would they have to do to move up? To be honest with you, Hanover needs some losses. Beat Dover, and Hanover needs some else. Because as long as Hanover's sitting at 7, 8, 9, it's hard to take them off the
Southwestern and Northeastern play next week, so maybe that becomes kind of an elimination game. And if York Suburban beats Dover, York Suburban takes one of their spots. But yeah, I'm kind of with Teddy. If we're doing a top 5, York Suburban's definitely number 5.
So you're
doing
going
top 4.
So
leave them out.
Yeah. So basically, you're what you originally said. Now you're just saying you're punting.
No, I'm keeping the last 4. What I said originally was we need to have a serious discussion about York Suburban. I didn't say they definitely had to be in, but we had to have a serious discussion.
I'm with you, and I have respect for what they've done this year.
All right, here's York Suburban. They played Redland when Redland was good. It was at Redland. They lost by 10. They played at Northeastern and lost by 7. Then they beat Spring.
They have to be behind Northeastern, and they lost to Northeastern.
They beat Spring Grove.
True.
They beat Spring Grove, beat Kennerdale, beat Ephrata, beat Susky, beat West York 5 in a row.
But we can't do this like Redland in their prime thing. Like,
I'm not saying Redland in their prime, but
I'll also say this: they've gotten better every week. I think their offense has improved every single week. That counts for something too. That does count for something. And you know what? Let's see what happens this weekend against Dover.
Yeah.
I picked them to win against Dover.
So did I. We all did actually. So
okay, so we're going Downtown, Southwestern, Northeastern, Hanover.
Yeah, we're keeping it the way it was.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
But we're making a point to say York Suburban beat Dover, and then we're gonna have an even more serious discussion.
What Zach was saying was, well, at least we're gonna give him the courtesy now to put him in the conversation.
We didn't even barely mention them last week. They're in the top 5 now, just not in the top 4.
I would agree. But again, we'll see what happens against Dover.
Right.
But I picked them to beat Dover.
There's still a lot of football to play.
That's really that conversation got us absolutely nowhere. Next.
Yeah. Best fan base or stadium experience you've seen since you've been here?
Got to think about this one. I've been to Southwestern 3 times. I'm going to just say it. I'm a little disappointed with their student section.
Wow.
They packed the house.
I've seen them disappointed with their student section. Like on Twitter, they've complained about that.
Yeah, honestly, a parent came to me because we're doing, for those of you that don't know out there, we've been like recording the student sections. We're going to do a big competition on our website soon. I recorded Southwesterns. I'm walking back up to the press box, and some woman says, "Are you Zach?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Don't put that on Twitter. Our student section is sad today." And I was like, "Look, I'm not going to put it on Twitter, but I don't disagree with you. Like, I need to see more standing up. I get that they're in the front. They don't want to like block people's views, but like move to the back, stand the whole game.
They sit the whole game?
Yeah, they sit most of the game. So,
every
move
student
back
section
a
I've
little.
seen this year stands the entire game.
Move back a little.
Get on your
stand
feet
up.
and do something.
Get excited. The players would appreciate it. So, yeah, even though Southwestern fan base as a whole has been very good, and they really bring out a lot of people. The student section itself has been a little bit of a disappointment. I've been to Bermudian a couple times. I really haven't made it to too many when I really think about it, but Bermudian's got a good fan base too, even in a down year, even when they were 0-3 and I was there for Game 4. Still had a lot of people there, people really into it. There's not a lot of people running around, not a lot of kids running around. People are locked into the game, so I was pretty impressed with Bermudian student section, or overall fan section.
Basically what we learned is Zach needs to broaden his horizon to stop going to Southwestern and Bermudian every week.
Yeah, now that I think about it, there's been 7 weeks I've been to those 2 schools 5 times. So,
what about you, Brandon? You've actually seen a wide range of schools.
Yeah, I think the one that stood out to me this week was West York's was bad. Like West York's, like before the game, like for the TV cameras, when I did it, like they got loud, like that was cool. Right. During the game, their parents were yelling at the students to start making noise. Like that's not a good sign.
No,
if your parents are yelling at you to be louder,
your students need to be yelling at parents to make noise. It needs to be happening that way.
Like multiple times through the second half, different parents around the stadium would stand up. They'd be like, student section, what are you, like yelling at the student section, like lecturing them.
Let's go.
And then everyone would like clap for the parent who stood up. It was a library for the second half besides the parents.
Yeah.
So I was pretty disappointed. For all that talk everyone
and the
does
players do feed off that. Like the players definitely feed off that, noise and excitement from the crowd. And if you don't have it, it's easy to let a game get away like that, like West York did.
So I think that one was pretty bad. Man, I'm trying to think.
Where else I've been. Delone. Yeah, Delone was all right. Delone's kind of like an older fan base.
It was pretty old.
Yeah. It's an older, more like low-key fan base.
There's that analysis.
They get really angry really quick though. Like Delone is notoriously just like a very critical fan base.
I gotta tell you right now, my visual image of a Delone Catholic game now is really funny. Wow. That's good to know.
I saw Northeasterns during the rainstorm, so for those 6 guys that were there, they were pretty loud.
I just remembered the one other school I've seen, Biglerville. I was impressed with Biglerville, actually. They got the fans get pretty into it. They have actually a really good marching band that does some cool stuff, and like the cheerleaders even do like a Rockettes thing. Like they have more going on than you would think out in Biglerville, and they do this cool thing with like a siren. I guess it's part of their pregame ritual. The team comes down to like Eye of the Tiger. There's like a siren blasting. It's kind of a cool experience that I wasn't totally expecting when I went out there.
I think the other two, the best one I've seen all year is York Suburban. I still stand by that one. I think they were great. Okay. The game I went to, they got dressed up for it. They brought, they stood the whole time. They were loud. They were jumping up and down. So I get to see them tomorrow. And I already threw out some Twitter jabs, and they need to step their game up so I can get some good video. And they're pretty pumped up for it, so I'm excited to see them.
Yeah, and I'll be at Spring Grove tomorrow. I mean, those stands are humongous. I don't know how much they filled them, but if they fill those whole stands, that's going to be a pretty cool atmosphere.
Theirs was pretty cool last year. actually Spring Grove's basketball student section was awesome last year, but their football was pretty good. And I've always loved when they yell Rockets during the national anthem. I think it's awesome. Some other places hate it, but their student section
Rockets,
yells,
red glare.
They yell Rockets during
that's
the
kind of
national
cool.
anthem.
That's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
So definitely check them out for that part.
Yeah, I'll be doing the video for them if any Spring Grove students are listening. Make sure you bring it tomorrow.
Last one I had was Red Lion. They do the LeBron chalk toss as a student section before the game. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, like the whole student section. Like I forget what moment they do it, but like they all do the like chalk toss at once. It looks pretty cool.
Every school should have something like that,
Yeah.
like their own unique thing.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right, so there we have it. Zach didn't really give one. He said some things he doesn't like. Oh, Biglerville.
Biglerville was like a dark horse contender.
And I'll go York Suburban. If you let us, this is kind of like a fancy draft. You get one quarterback in the league and 2 running backs. Yours can be from your area. Who you taking?
You gotta go with Kraut as the quarterback, I think.
From your area? For overall?
I mean, I would say overall, probably.
Him and Merkel have been 1-2.
Oh yeah, Merkel.
the last 2 years.
Yeah. You kind of got to go. Merkel's about to set the county record, so it's hard to go against him. All right, let's keep it in my area then.
All right.
That's where I really.
So you go Kraut.
I have
I'll
a
go
wealth
Merkel.
of knowledge, so I'll go Kraut. Oh, we're building a team. We're gonna face each other. The Zach versus Brandon game after the playoffs.
Sure.
Running backs. Gotta keep Lockman. Dorsey's a good one too.
I think Loffman Dorsey could be a good duo because Loffman can
it's
pound
kind
away
of like a
bit.
thunder and lightning duo. Yeah.
Loffman's hard to bring down. Dorsey's hard to catch.
Yeah, going into the season, I would have thought Scott Cooper would have been in this conversation, but he's been a little bit of a disappointment statistically this season. And he kind of, the one time I've seen them, he runs too much east to west and not enough north south. I don't know. He's had the injuries. I don't know if it's kind of being wary of getting knocked, or if it's maybe waiting for something to develop that's not developing for whatever reason. I don't know what it is, but yeah, he hasn't played as well as we've expected. I know Ashton West has some good numbers, but yeah, I think I'm going to stick with Lockman and Dorsey. Maybe Harbison if he had been healthy, maybe too, but he's hurt again. So
you've got a Hanover, DeLone.
DeLone, yeah, very Hanover centric.
Okay. Teddy, what you got?
Just looking at the numbers, Merkel's got a 3-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, 15-5, 60% completion percentage, over 1,400 yards. No one's even close to that. I mean, they throw the rock an awful lot. It's tough to go against him. It's really tough to argue against anyone Zach picked. I like the Kennard kid at York Catholic. He's got a lot of ability. Also, a quarterback, I think Shannon Valenti's had a good year. I think he might bring something to the table that goes even beyond. Obviously, he's kind of, he can run the football too, and I can't overlook the record at all.
Yeah, Cade Gold from Dallas has a little bit of that knack for making big plays at the right time, even if he's not a stat leader.
If you guys went Kraut Merkel, my pick would have been Cade Gold, lefty.
He's been great.
Yeah.
And I'm completely with you. It seems like when the chips are down, Gold rises to the occasion on a consistent basis. Yeah, he's been fantastic this year.
Some other good running backs you could have chosen from. Alex Keogh from Red Lion has been up there at the top of the league the entire year, averaging a bunch of yards. Ryan Narber has stepped up since Cadence Thomas left the team for West York.
I just want to say his big year at West York, wide receiver Terry Canes, over 600 yards, 6 TDs. He's a nice little player. Kyle Woldridge at Kennerdale, close to 600 yards, 7 TDs. Boyd Gillespie obviously is a great player too. I know he had when you have 200 yards, 5 touchdown game, that's going to really inflate the stats. But with that being said, he's tied for the league lead with 8 touchdowns this year. He's a nice little player. No, he's not little. He's a big receiver. He's a nice player.
Yeah. Duran Ledbetter's another running back we left out.
Yeah.
Ledbetter could have been chosen from Dover. I think that's another solid one.
He hasn't been putting up the monster numbers.
Part of that might be their quarterback situation. They're on like their 5th quarterback. You know that the run is coming now.
I think they also have kind of used him maybe slightly differently this year. I don't know that for a fact.
He's been the league's best kick returner, punt returner this year.
He's a fantastic player for sure. I mean, to be honest with you, I can't argue with a lineup that is Merkel/Gold, Canes and Gillespie, and then round it out with Kennard.
I like it. I would probably go Kennard, Keogh at running back, Merkel at quarterback. Mailman's pretty shifty at wide receiver. He's kind of a shorter guy, but he's like a Wes Welker.
He's always having
Julian Edelman type year. Okay, so solid squads there. I like that, guys. Is there a best defensive team you've seen? Best defensive player? Anybody that stood out to you?
I don't know about defensive player. I mean, Dallastown's got just a really complete defense. You know,
how's
they
Hanover
seem to be able
defense
to
look? Because
defend.
Hanover defense statistically is at the top. But I mean, are they that overwhelming?
You know, I've only seen Hanover in person once this year, and they did a really good job of getting pressure on Chase Dull, the Bermudian Springs quarterback at the game I saw. You know, he was constantly under duress, and I think that's why they've been able to succeed. Part of why their defense is so good, though, is that the offense takes a lot of time between plays, runs the ball a lot, runs a lot of clock down, and dominates time of possession, which makes it tough for teams to score a lot of points against them. So that's really what the best aspect of Hanover's defense is almost their offense.
Right. I think a team that's had a very good defensive performance, consistent defensive performance throughout the year has been Dallastown. They had back-to-back shutouts early in the season. They held Southwestern to 21. Was that last week?
That was.
They seem to have definitely, again, they play very well as a team. You know, whether it's the quarterback producing when he has to or the defense getting a big stop, their defense has been very solid.
Yeah, and the defense is good defending the run and the pass, too. It's tough to really get a lot going against Dallastown.
Yeah, they've had a solid year across the board.
Best game you've seen?
It has to be the first game I saw here, Bermudian Springs, New Oxford, that ended on a walk-off field goal by New Oxford. That was a really exciting game that, you know, went down right to the last second. It was cool, too, because it was New Oxford's first win in a couple of years.
I probably go this past week. The York Suburban West York, same thing. It was ended
game.
on almost a walk-off field goal. I guess Atkinson hit it, and there's 1 second left on the clock, and West York had like this Music City Miracle-esque kickoff return that almost went the distance afterward. But seeing York Suburban storm the field at West York on homecoming was pretty sweet.
You like stuff like that. Brandon's about like bad sportsmanship.
I liked when Maryland didn't shake Penn State's hand.
Right, exactly. It's kind of along the same lines. As that.
Brandon likes it when a team comes into enemy territory, wins, and then stomps on the logo.
Yeah, kind of talks some trash.
Yeah,
Brandon's
I want
trash
that
talk.
extra pride. You know what I mean? Like I liked Rex Ryan as a coach. Like I like talking up your team. I like that kind of guy. I don't want a guy coming in here like, oh well, their team's pretty good, and you know,
like the new Jets coach Todd Bowles.
Yeah, Temple guy though. I like Todd Bowles.
Oh, yeah.
I like Todd Bowles actually, but that's kind of exactly what you're describing.
Contender pretender time.
Ooh, okay.
Spring Grove. We're on different sides of the fence, I think, with this one.
Yeah, I'll go contender. You know, with the defense, the offense obviously hasn't shown a ton, but when you have a defense like they do and a kicker like they do, you're going to be in close games and you're going to have a chance to win close games. So I'd say contender.
When I see Dallastown, when I see Northeastern, when I see Southwestern above them in the standings, Spring Grove is a 3-1 record, so they should tie with Southwestern. I even see a team like Red Lion behind them. You know, obviously, I don't want to be disrespectful when I say this either, because I think that they're winning football games. I'm not trying to come off as this, brash, crazy maniac, but I'm saying pretender.
I'm saying pretender. I don't think they win again this year. I think they get a loss this week to Northeastern. I think then they lose to Red Lion, and then they lose to Southwestern.
Red Lion next week.
This is their chance to really
stretch.
prove it. You know what I mean? Like if they can, so that you're saying they Northeastern, Red Lion, then Dallastown. Is that
Southwestern?
And Southwestern.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's see how they do here.
Yeah, I think
This is their chance to prove us wrong.
Yeah, I was on the opposite side last year. I thought they were contender, and then they got smacked around, and I was the only one being like, "Oh, they're still good." This year, I just don't. If your biggest win's a 2-4 Central squad, I just don't see it yet.
Right. If you're getting a Gatorade shower after a 2-4 win,
I did that what grinds my gears segment earlier we were talking about, and talked about how much that I despise that.
Yeah.
Brandon gave a little rant on that one.
Say well
I couldn't really disagree with him, to be honest with you.
Biglerville. I would have said contender until they lost to York Catholic.
I still say contender. I just think, I know the talent this team has. I think going into York Catholic is a tough place to play. That team seems to play better at home. Maybe if that game's at Biglerville, it goes totally the other way. I still think Biglerville's a contender, especially for the fact that I actually will probably pick Biglerville next week, not to let too much on here, but I think Biglerville can beat Hanover, in which case they would be in the driver's seat for Division III, so I'd definitely say contender.
I have to say contender too. They've clearly shown they can compete very well in D3. Losing at York Catholic, I still have respect for York Catholic as on that level. So no, they've proven this year that they're a contending team. Even the first couple weeks of the year, they really could have won both those games. This team is 4-3, 3-1 in division. They could easily be 5-2. They could be 6-1.
Yeah.
I'll play the pessimist role, the devil's advocate role.
Why am I not surprised?
I'll go. First of all, Zach hasn't completely bought into Hanover yet, as I have, and he's big on Biglerville, and I'm the complete opposite. I think we could take 5 or 6 teams in the league and say they could have won 2 games in the beginning of the season. They could have won this one or that one. They haven't done anything that really has wowed me yet. There hasn't been a win Biglerville has. I was like, wow, that's great job, Biglerville.
Okay, well, I mean, obviously, they still have a way to go with you.
Yeah,
I mean, they still have to play Hanover and Bern.
Yeah,
I think they have a couple
I think they
games
lose
to
to
make
Hanover.
that statement.
I think they beat Bern. I think they lose to Hanover.
The Hanover-Biglerville game is going to be very interesting. Who do they have this weekend?
Hanover has York County Tech.
I meant Biglerville.
Biglerville has
Littlestown?
Littlestown, yes.
Okay, well, I went Biglerville.
What about Susky?
Susky, I
Three-
say
3 wins, all in division?
I say Pretender just because I don't think they're quite on the level as those top 3 teams in Division 2. I think they're pretty clearly the number 4 team, but I think West York, I mean, obviously they could prove me wrong this week, but I think West York, Dover, and Suburban are in, a step above and pretty clearly the top 3 teams in Division 2.
Much improved, no question. Much more competitive, without a shadow of a doubt. Contender, no. I see them as a pretender. I do like what Coach Wiles has brought there. They even battled Northeastern early in the year. I take nothing away from what the Warriors have done this year. It's just pretender-contender standpoint. I go pretender.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they're one of the best teams on the rise right now. I think as long as Wiles sticks around next year, which I don't see why he wouldn't, but I think he has them on the right track. I think next year, the year after, you could see them being a 500 above team for sure.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Bermudian. They've made some noise the last couple weeks.
Yeah, honestly, I say contender. I think this team is kind of back on track, has figured out ways to win games, and it's not like they could beat Dallastown or any Division 1 teams or the top echelon of Division 2 teams, but I think they could. I think they could still win the Division 3, and they'll get a shot at Biglerville late in the season. If Biglerville beats Hanover and then Biglerville comes to Bermudian, that sets up a situation if Bermudian can beat York Catholic tomorrow where Bermudian still has a chance. And I think, like I said earlier in the show, I think Berm's going to beat York Catholic tomorrow in York Springs. And then, they're right there. They're in position to win it despite the 0-4 start.
I think, again, if we're talking about on the divisional level and we're talking about Division 3, they're sitting at 3-1. Their track record is what it is. Their coaching record is what it is. Their program, historically, you got to go contender here just because they have been picking it up. They've improved as the year has gone along. If you're going to give Biglerville a 3-1, the contender label at 3-1, I'm going to give it to Berm Springs too. I don't think they're as strong as they were maybe in recent seasons, but they know how to win. Brandon's going
Here
pretender.
it comes.
I'm not going to go pretender. I think, like you said, if we're talking about just in division, I think they're still one of the. No, I'm going pretender. I changed my mind. I'm going full pretender.
Okay.
I just think they're. I wouldn't take them over Hanover right now. They already lost to Hanover. I wouldn't take them over Biglerville right now. I think they're a lesser team than Biglerville.
And you didn't take them over.
I didn't
York
take them over York Catholic.
tomorrow.
So really, I'm taking them as the 4th best team in that division. So if you're the 4th best team in Division 3, I don't say you're a contender. But this Bermudian beat Fairfield by 30, beat York Tech by 28, and beat DeLone by 4. Those are the 3 wins. They beat the 3 worst teams in Division 3.
Yeah.
They lost to Hanover, lost to Shippensburg, lost to Boiling Springs, and lost to New Oxford. Young team, I think they're going to get good. They're also like Susky. I think they're going to be fine next year. They're going to be great a year or 2 from now. But
the quarterback, Chase Dull's only a freshman, so when he's a senior, look out.
Yeah, they're going to be really good for the next couple of years. I had Southwestern on here. This should probably pretty much be a gimme. You still see Southwestern as a top
yeah,
contender.
absolutely. I mean, just a game out, after the tough loss to Dallastown, a very competitive loss last week. Southwestern gets Northeastern next week. That'll be a game that will in all likelihood kind of be for second place, but it's actually a big game because there's no guarantee Dallastown beats Red Lion in Week 10. So, that game's going to kind of be to eliminate one team and see who's in the mix and can tie Dallastown if Red Lion helps them out. And, I think Southwestern is probably going to be that team. I'm not, I don't put too much in the loss last week. I just think Dallastown's the best team in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going contender. We've been saying it all year. Dallastown's had a great season. I agree. I echo everything Zach said.
Quick quiz for you then.
All right, let's do it.
I only got 3 questions this time. Best statistical defense right now. Who has the best team defense in the Hanover-Adams area? This one surprised me. This is why I had to put it on here.
Well, it's not Dallastown because that would make sense.
No, Hanover-Adams area.
Oh, Hanover-Adams
area.
Oh, okay.
I think they're 4th overall.
I would say Hanover. I think a surprising one, there's 2 that I think it might be. That would be a little bit surprising.
Let's see.
DeLone Catholic or Bermudian Springs.
Neither one. Spring Grove has the best defense in your area. They've given the fewest yards of any defense in the Hanover-Adams area, and they actually have a +8 turnover ratio right now.
Yeah, I should have got that one. I've been harping on about how good Spring Grove's defense is all day. Really, probably should have got that one.
They under Stoner last year and the year before, their defense is very fly to the ball, very scrappy defense. They very undisciplined. They got a lot of penalties, but they've cleaned that up lately, and they're still forcing turnovers. So they've kept the good and got rid of the bad, basically. So they're riding high right now.
And not too many penalties.
Right.
Hopefully, kind of clean that up a little bit.
Worst defense statistically in your area. Other end of the spectrum.
You got to be Fairfield. Littlestown. Yeah.
Yeah, Littlestown's had the roughest time. What receiver has the most catches in your area?
Noah Staub.
Noah Staub, 27. So you went 1 for 3. It's not bad. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this one. When we come back after the break, we're going to start talking about some other sports. We got a whole bunch of volleyball,
soccer, field hockey,
soccer.
cross
I almost said
basketball.
basketball. I don't know why I got basketball in my mind. But, yeah, so we have some soccer, we have some field hockey, we have some volleyball to talk about. We'll see you after the break. Stick with us. See you in a minute.
Waking up with the Steve Zabin Show.
When Mike Weir finally won the Masters as a lefty, it had broken like some 70-year stretch or something like that with no lefties winning. But since Mike Weir took the lid off lefties, 6 of the last 12 Masters tournaments have been won by southpaws. Behold, your stat of the day.
Join me, Steve Zabin, mornings at 6 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Payne doesn't take Sunday off. Neither do we. We're open weekdays 8 to 8 and weekends 9 to 6. Just walk into WellSpan Urgent Orthopedics, 2319 South George Street in York, across from the Apple Hill Health Campus. Visit wellspan.org/urgent orthopedics today.
It's going to be another epic year in high school football, and Sports Radio 1350 is ready for kickoff. Tune in every Friday night this fall for the high school football game of the week, presented by WellSpan Sports Medicine. Plus, go to WOYK1350.com for a full breakdown of the teams and the players of the 2015 York Adams League. The high school football game of the week, presented by WellSpan Sports Medicine. Catch the action every Friday night on Sports Radio 1350, online at WOYK1350.com, or download the WOYK mobile app.
This Sunday on Sports USA, the New Orleans Saints race into Indianapolis to take on the Colts. The Colts have Frank Gore running the rock and always have luck on their side. Drew Brees and the Saints have a top-flight passing game and dual threat with Mark Ingram in the backfield.
Cuts it back to the inside of the 5, breaks a tackle at the 3, and powers into the end zone.
It's the Saints at the Colts this Sunday on Sports USA.
Your home for the NFL. Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Hi, this is Wayne McCullough. Join me every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. for Central PA Game Day, right here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. Join us as we celebrate the best of local sports with your teams and your student athletes. Interviews with players and coaches and the high school scoreboard show every Saturday morning. Central PA Game Day, Saturdays at 9 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Sports Radio 1350 WOYK honors the Shipley Energy Student Athlete of the Week.
This week's Shipley Energy Football Student Athlete of the Week is Kendrick Boyd Gillespie from Red Lion. The star wide receiver caught 10 passes for 204 yards and 5 touchdowns, all from quarterback Dalton Grove in Red Lion's 61-21 road win at New Oxford. This week's Shipley Energy Girls Student Athlete of the Week is Bree Hackos from Central York Soccer. Her overtime goal clinched a 2-1 win over Spring Grove and a YAI AA Division I title for the Panthers. And this week's Shipley Energy Boys Student Athlete of the Week is Sam Johnson from Bermudian Spring Soccer. Johnson netted 2 goals in a 5-0 win over Hanover, then added 2 more in a 6-1 win over Littlestown that clinched the Eagles' first Division III title since 2004.
Get your home ready for fall and winter and sign up for the Shipley Energy Protection Plan. For more information, visit ShipleyEnergy.com.
Did you know that Shipley Energy can take care of all your energy needs? From heating oil and propane to providing your home with electricity and natural gas. We also provide heating and air conditioning service and installation. All of your energy needs are under one roof at Shipley Energy. To learn more, visit ShipleyEnergy.com. Call 855-4-SHIPLEY and don't forget to ask about our $100 rebate. Shipley Energy. Energy for life.
Hi, this is Eric Depew, head coach of the York Catholic Fighting Irish. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Welcome back to Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350. I've almost gotten that right every single time. I messed it up one time. I get really self-conscious about it.
Yeah, he had a big fumble on one earlier, but it's been good other than that.
It's a game time with Game Day time.
I think you did Game Day with Game Day.
Game Day with Game Day. So now we're getting into the segment where we talk about some other sports. Guys, we got some soccer is reaching their playoffs, so their championships are coming up tomorrow or tonight. Everything's tonight. Title Thursday. I don't know how I forgot that.
Girls soccer, boys soccer, field hockey, all those championship games are tonight.
Boys literally just kicked off at Susky. Girls is at 7 p.m. Field hockey, you're looking at a 7 p.m. start at Northeastern.
Yeah, I'll be at the field hockey game. It is Bermudian Springs in the championship for the first time against Dallastown, who's kind of been there before. But yeah, Bermudian Springs, as many times as they've been in the tournament, which they win Division III, this is now 9 years in a row. Yesterday was the first time they actually won a YAIAA tournament game, beating New Oxford 2-1 in overtime.
And New Oxford hadn't been there in a while, so I wrote in the preview that really either one of those teams that won was going to be a huge deal.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big deal to New Oxford just to get there. But, it's not a big deal for Bermudian Springs just to get there. It's an expectation by this point, and so it was a big deal to actually win. And it was pretty, anytime you win in overtime with a goal that ends the game, it's dramatic and it's exciting.
And Berm wanted that rematch with Dallastown because they gave Dallastown their best game of the year earlier this year, 2-1. They wanted a rematch with Dallastown.
In the championship of the Dallastown tournament, I believe.
Yeah.
Back in, it had to have been September. So, yeah, I mean, I'm expecting a good game tonight. I'm expecting it to be competitive. There weren't a ton of goals to go around yesterday. Dallastown's only goal came on a penalty stroke.
Which was kind of different than we talked about that in the office when we saw the scores coming in. Yet last night we've seen 10-1, 9-2 scores all season, and last night it was 1-0.
1-0.
Yeah, 1-0 in Dallastown game with a goal with 2 minutes left, and then 2-1 in the New Oxford Bermudian game. So yeah, I mean, it'll probably be another low-scoring competitive game.
And then in we got soccer, boys soccer, girls soccer. Girls is Dover, Dallastown. Our new guy Christian Arnold will be there for that one. That's at Susky. One of these two teams has been in every league title game for the past 9 years. They've never met in that span, though. So they've rotated pretty much for the last 9 years.
I mean, both honestly won thrillers. So Dallastown beat Northeastern 3-2 in overtime to get to this point. That was in the semifinals. Dover with a 1-0 win over Central. Central's had a great year in a lot of different sports this year, including girls soccer.
That was a red-hot Central team. That was a big stop for Dover.
Big time.
Dover's got Brooke Firestone. She scored her 100th career goal. Dallastown, both these teams have a really good defense this year. Neither team has given up more than 10 or 15 goals all season. Dallastown had that one stretch where they were shutting 10 straight teams out. So both teams' defense is really solid. Dallastown's back line is pretty much all seniors. They have 4 seniors basically back there, and then a freshman goalie behind them.
Oh, wow.
But they've done a really good job of keeping other teams away from the net. And same thing with Dover. I can see this one being another 1-0 game.
Really impressive.
Yeah. We'll see if Firestone can break through there, but otherwise it might be another 1-0 finish.
Boys soccer, Tom Sixius is covering that one. That's Gettysburg putting its undefeated record on the line against, I believe, Central York is the opponent.
Yeah, it's Gettysburg against Central York for sure. And honestly, this is going to be a very interesting game. Gettysburg is a legit state title contender. I think we all agree on that. They've had a fantastic year, 18-0. They beat Biglerville soundly 5-1. But Central York is a great team too. They beat Susky 5-1 to get to this point. They're 19-1 overall, 12-0 in Division I. I am very interested to see how this game goes on against Tom Sixius covering that game. That game has just gotten underway about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, Tom mentioned these two teams have kind of been on a collision course all season. They're easily the two best teams in. It was the same thing with Dallastown and Gettysburg on the field hockey side.
I agree. Yeah, no question.
I mean, these were the two best teams in the area. You knew that at some point they were going to meet up in the playoffs, and this is that big one.
Yeah, and field hockey, Gettysburg came in undefeated, ended up losing that one. Boys soccer, Gettysburg comes in undefeated. We'll see what happens against the Division I champion.
Yeah, the Central's won, I believe, 2. They're going for a 3-peat. They won 2 league championships in a row on the Central side. Gettysburg's trying to stop that. Both these teams, though, are beyond today going to continue deep into districts most likely and possibly into states for both these teams.
No question. I mean, that goes without being said. Both are very talented, but I'm excited to see them both match up tonight and see what we get out of it.
But the field hockey games you guys saw yesterday, there was an overtime win, right?
Yeah, the Bermudian win was in 7-on-7 overtime.
New Oxford 2-1 in OT. Yeah.
That was on a penalty. Was that the one on the penalty stroke?
No. That was the Dallastown one. It was 2 minutes left, and I had actually just walked in. I was covering the later game. I just walked in, and they called a penalty. Yeah, it was kind of controversial, I think. I know the Gettysburg coach afterwards, it felt like it was the wrong call. They called a penalty. Dallastown girl stepped up, took the shot, buried it, and that was it. And, yeah, I mean, so both games pretty much came down right to the finish and were very exciting the whole way through.
Have you learned anything? This is kind of like your first year covering. You hadn't covered much field hockey before.
No, I never covered field hockey before.
So what have you seem to enjoy it now, though. What have you learned? What's different than you expected?
I mean, I honestly, like, some of the rules I still don't fully grasp. They blow the whistle an awful lot and stop the game an awful lot. I don't necessarily always understand why.
I want to see Zach's face during the game when the whistle
Yeah,
goes.
sometimes I'm just like, what?
Well, I didn't realize. I feel like you can't hit it with your foot. Like you can't hit the ball with your foot at all. That's a whistle.
There was also
you
a
can
goal.
hit it with a certain part of your stick. That's a whistle.
Yeah, there was a goal late in the game disallowed because apparently one girl hit it with the wrong side of her stick, and so that came. New Oxford thought
you can't like backhand it.
You can backhand, but you have to use I guess the rounded side, or is it the flat side? You have to. There's one side of your stick you're allowed to use. There's one you're not.
Yeah. Like it's only there's only one side of your stick you can use.
Like
so you can backhand.
You can backhand it, but you have to turn the stick and use the proper side of it, essentially.
I mean, rules are rules.
Rules are rules, that's for sure. And the rules, which I didn't even know in overtime, or they go to 7-on-7. So it's almost like the way the NHL does it, where you take a guy or two off the ice and play overtime. Field hockey, they go from 11 players down to 7.
It's better.
Yeah, I mean, it opens things up for scoring. It only took 3 minutes for someone to score in the overtime yesterday.
Right.
So who you predicting for a win tonight?
It's just an interesting question for someone who's still trying to grasp the rules of the game. Zach, please, what's your prediction? I'm picking Dallastown.
Yeah, so am I, but, it would be cool to see Bermudian win. That they finally have gotten through the hump, and it's almost like the New York Mets. If you get through that first hump, maybe you win it all.
Okay.
I'm going Berm in the upset in that one. I'm going Dallastown girls soccer. I'm going Central boys soccer, and I'm going Berm field hockey tonight in Title Thursday.
I'm going Dallastown. I'm going Gettysburg.
I'm going Gettysburg for sure. I picked Dallastown in the field hockey, but we'll see. I don't want anyone getting mad at me if I'm wrong about that one.
You're fine. Play on.
And who? Oh, girls hockey. I'm gonna go with Dover. Brooke Firestone. A couple goals from her.
Couple goals from her against Dallastown. Dallastown doesn't give up anything. He's going for a couple goals from her. Okay.
2-1.
2-1. Now he's predicting scores. Anything else, Teddy?
Well, I mean, volleyball, obviously, York Suburban stayed alive in Division II.
Forgot to mention volleyball. York Suburban, Susky, they each play. They're in first and second right now in Division II. York Suburban stayed in the hunt by sweeping Susky the other night 3-0. So right now the situation is there's one game left, and Suburban's behind Susky by one game. Both of them play pretty challenging teams tonight. So Suburban needs a win and a Susky loss to share a title.
Now, following the game the other night, they each had 2 matches remaining. You're saying now this is the regular season finale tonight?
Tonight's the regular season finale.
Okay.
So they both won the last one. So now, yeah, it's Suburban plays Kennerdale, so Suburban has to win that one, and Susky plays West York. So if Susky loses to West York and Suburban wins, then they split the title. If Susky wins or Suburban loses, Susky takes the title.
Staying on the volleyball kick in D1, Central York swept Redline. Central York is a really good team. Redline's a good team, and they've beaten Redline twice this year. Now, Central York's now 13-0 on the year, so they win the D1 championship. Congrats to them. And what happened in D3?
DeLone has clinched the title.
That kind of was a prerequisite.
Actually clinched it a little earlier than we thought. I thought it would come down till today because Hanover only has one loss, which is to DeLone. They play each other tonight for the second time. I thought DeLone would lock it up then, because technically it wouldn't have been locked up. But Hanover got swept by Bermudian Springs on Tuesday at Hanover, which was a little surprising. So that eliminated Hanover. So Hanover's still going to the league tournament as the number 2 team in Division 3, but DeLone is the Division 3 champion for, I'm sure, the 20th year in a row.
It's been a while since anyone but DeLone won that division.
Right. They're pretty much they're a stalwart.
I mean, that division, that league playoffs, though, is going to be insane. There's so much talent because you have Hanover and DeLone down there. You have Susky and Suburban are both going to make it, and possibly a West York team in D2.
Yeah. Central
and Red Lion. I mean, that's just going to be a stacked league playoff. That's going to be pretty exciting. That gets started next week. I'm excited to get
Monday, yeah.
For sure.
That's you? You're taking that one?
I mean, there's going to be like 4 different games, so I mean, we can split it up.
We can talk about that at the break.
We'll figure that out. Anything else, Teddy?
I think we're good to go.
We're good to go. Like we said, golf is another sport we mentioned. Gus Minkin and Central sending 3 to states, Eastern sending 2, Kevin Crumbly and Andrew Davis. Tennis, I think some of our teams flamed out in districts this week. So, yeah, we're gonna come back after the break. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Payne doesn't take Sunday off. Neither do we. We're open weekdays 8 to 8 and weekends 9 to 6. Just walk into WellSpan Urgent Orthopedics, 2319 South George Street in York, across from the Apple Hill Health Campus. Visit wellspan.org/urgent orthopedics today.
It's going to be another epic year in high school football, and Sports Radio 1350 is ready for kickoff. Tune in every Friday night this fall for the high school football game of the week, presented by WellSpan Sports Medicine. Plus, go to WOYK1350.com for a full breakdown of the teams and the players of the 2015 York Adams League. The high school football game of the week, presented by WellSpan Sports Medicine. Catch the action every Friday night on Sports Radio 1350, online at WOYK1350.com, or download the WOYK mobile app.
The puck drops here.
Wellman, the shot, score!
Sports Radio 1350, your home for Hershey Bears hockey.
Casey Wellman has won it in overtime for Hershey.
And the Washington Capitals.
Here in a shot, they score!
Defending the Den and rocking the red all season. Catch the Bears and the Caps on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports. York Revolution Baseball plays here.
Catch all 140 games of accurate reporting.
Actually, is that Travis Scott behind the plate now?
It's been Travis Scott behind the plate all night.
Are you serious? Not on the lineup sheet, it's not.
Unbiased observation.
Oh, there's a big flash.
Why don't they just stand there?
Yeah.
Not the player, to be honest.
Maybe they can't see that either.
And mature professional commentary.
It's nice to have you back, Ray. You were away, yesterday. Now whines, in the pitch. It is outside. Who's listening in the clubhouse tonight, meow?
My money's on Rami Lewis. Yeah.
I can't do it anymore.
Revs Baseball, all season on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Hi, I'm West York football coach Jeremy Jones. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
GameDay with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350. We're in our last 10 minutes of the show. We're pushing through. We're
last 5, really.
We're harboring on. Last 5 minutes of the show. Yeah, really. 6 minutes of the show now. Quick update for you guys. We just mentioned the boys soccer championships going on right now. Gettysburg scores first. They score early.
I picked them.
I believe it was Adam Yingling, Matt Yingling, one of the Yingling brothers for Gettysburg.
One of them. They're both good.
Scored very early on. So Gettysburg takes a 1-0 lead over Central York. That one's sure to be a good one. Check in tonight, tomorrow on Game Time to see how it finished up.
Can I throw some live streams out there for the audience?
They know what they're,
you
do you. You
they
do
know
what
they're
you
getting
do.
themselves into. All right, hold on. Well, I mean, let's start out with the top. Not a great slate of games this weekend overall. I'm just saying, there's been some, but I think probably the best game this weekend, at least from a local standpoint, York Dover at York Suburban will be on our live stream tomorrow.
That's definitely the best game this week.
I'll be at that one.
Brandon will be there. Yeah, he'll have company too. So Brandon sorry, that was inappropriate. Brandon will be there. That's a 7 p.m. start. That'll be on GameTimePA.com on our live stream. Carlisle to Chambersburg, that'll also be live stream 7 p.m. kickoff. Stop laughing.
Sorry, I'm trying to hold myself together.
Come on, guys. 5 minutes left. We can do
it. Manheim Central go Calico, 7 p.m. start. This is hilarious. And Anvil Cleona at Northern Lebanon, 7 p.m. start. That is our live stream schedule if you were able to hear me.
Northern Lebanon, they're the team that forfeited some games for next year, right?
Yeah, no, from this year.
From this year. So
they forfeited their first 2 games of the season using an ineligible player. You can find Andrew Callahan's story on GameTimePA.com to find out what happened there.
So there's our live stream. What else we got, Teddy?
I mean, obviously, I missed the early portion talking football. Dowstown looking to move to 7. They're looking to move to 8. And it was obviously a big deal this weekend. Suburban playing Dover. That's a toss-up for first place in D2. We also have York Catholic playing Bermudian Springs. I took York Catholic this weekend. Spring Grove. Well, they're 4-3-3-1, and I did not take them.
We're going to jump into some college football now while Teddy regroups.
Teddy might have to walk out of the room for a minute.
Sorry,
Zach actually gets a pretty close time tomorrow. He'll be at M&T Bank. He'll be at Ravens Stadium tomorrow for Penn State, Maryland.
Saturday.
What did I say?
Tomorrow.
It's not tomorrow. It's Saturday. Penn State plays Maryland Saturday.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for that one.
Maryland has promised to shake hands this time. They have a new.
Their press box is probably incredible, man.
It's got to be, and I'm sure Brandon's not happy that they'll be shaking hands, right? You prefer the no handshake, right?
Don't pretend to be friends.
How did Maryland do under Loxley?
This is their first game.
This is their first game.
So they had a bye week. That was the whole. That was why they waited till after the Ohio State.
They didn't lose.
They are 0-0.
They're undefeated with Loxley.
And Loxley and James Franklin used to coach together on Ralph Friedgen's Maryland staff, so they know each other for sure.
That's the other thing. Loxley's coming in this one with a whole wrong attitude. He's trying to be buddy with Franklin, and that's not what you want.
That's what Franklin always does. If that's Franklin kills everybody with kindness. That's kind of his way of doing things.
Until he talks about Rutgers and Maryland. But then, Loxley just is coming in there with the wrong attitude. I want Loxley to come in and say, no, we're not going to shake their hands again, and we're going to beat them again. That's what I want from Loxley and from Maryland. But that's not what we're getting right now. They're going to go shake hands. Penn State's probably going to win the game now because we're getting soft, apparently.
Penn State with a win would be bowl eligible, which is kind of big because the schedule gets pretty tough after this game. So if you're Penn State, you want to win this one and wrap up that bowl bid.
There is one.
If Maryland wins this game, Penn State really should win this football game.
There is one college bowl eligible team in the state of Pennsylvania already, and they're ranked.
True.
Those Temple Owls guys.
Yes.
Jump on the bandwagon. If you have not seen them yet, they're on national TV tonight, ESPN2 against East Carolina. Big game in the American. The American, don't
I know what Brandon's doing tonight when he gets out of here.
I'm going to
that
watch.
ranking is well deserved, by the way.
The first time they've been ranked since 1979. I saw a stat on TV or on Twitter today that said that the last time Temple was ranked, 1, Reagan was in office, and 2, ESPN was 3 months old at that point.
Wow.
So
that's unbelievable, man.
So Temple's got a big game against East Carolina tonight, and then they host Notre Dame next week on ABC. Another chance for everyone to get a chance to see them. They host the Irish there. Teddy, anything else before we wrap up?
No, if I start talking, I'm just going to start cracking up.
Ray's giving us a signal. It's time to wrap this thing up. Guys, thanks for joining us again. We'll be back next week to see how our picks went. We'll start talking about some Week 9 football. We'll see you guys next week.
First in York, first in sports. Your only local sports station. The new Sports Radio 1350, WOYK, York, Pennsylvania.